News and opinions, all in one place. The OTB Sports app. Listen, watch, read. Wherever you are, we're always with you. The OTB Sports app, available to download now from your app store. He's a 7-time All-Ireland winner. He's a Mayo legend. Now they're together on the same team. Join Paddy Andrews and Andy Moran for the hit of the GAA season. The Football Pod with Paddy and Andy.
9 months, you're a monk. If that goes well then you have October, November, December, and you enjoy it, and you Lord Prince of Copperface Jacks.
Get the hop on everyone else. Hear the Football Pod and more first on the OTB Sports app every Tuesday morning. For the latest on GAA, Olympics, rugby, football and more, download the OTB Sports app, turn on push notifications and hear it here first.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Right, you're very welcome along. It's Wednesday morning, it's 7:30, it's OTB AM, it's Tyrone with you all the way through until 10 AM this morning. And we're starting with the biggest story in world sport, and that is the fact that Kylian Mbappe is up for sale. Perhaps, we're not sure. Paris Saint-Germain have apparently rejected Real Madrid's offer overnight. There is debate about this. There are different sources saying different things. They're saying they've rejected it, come back to us with a bit more money. They're saying, some people are saying they've rejected it, no chance. But it looks like Kylian Mbappe wants to go. He's got a year left in his deal. And what are Paris Saint-Germain going to do? What would you do, Owen, if you were Kylian Mbappe?
Well, Kylian Mbappe's childhood dream is to play for Real Madrid, he said, over the last little while. So if you're Kylian Mbappe, you want to go to Real Madrid at some point and fulfill that childhood dream. But I mean, maybe it was a teenage dream to play alongside Lionel Messi when you start to realise you become quite good at football. And I don't know, playing alongside himself and Neymar for one season is what I would do if I was as talented as Kylian Mbappe.
Play with Messi.
Yeah.
Become a free agent.
Yeah.
And then take all the money that Real Madrid are going to spend on your transfer fee and put it in your back pocket.
Well, correct, because that is, for me, the very clear way you play this if you're Kylian Mbappe. We are in an extraordinary time in football where there is a football club who won't care one bit about €160 million being on the table. Paris Saint-Germain are not factoring that into proceedings whatsoever, unless maybe there is a chance that financial fair play becomes a real thing in 12 months' time again. But then again, I'm not so sure, given their actual president is also the president of the ECA, and they have a pretty good stranglehold on European football themselves politically. So the transfer fee, to my mind, is actually relatively insignificant here, which is a crazy thing to say, given it is €160 million that Real Madrid have offered. What would be funny, though, is if Paris Saint-Germain turned around now and were like, yeah, we'll accept that. Then Real Madrid are like, oh, what? You're accepting that? Yeah, let us rethink that and go to the bank and come back with that €160 million, and then just don't text back, leave them on blue ticks for 12 months, and then come back and say, yeah, we've refinanced our stadium.
ESPN are reporting this morning that if they offer 200 million, then the deal will get done. That's what ESPN are saying, that rather than saying, no, never, they're like, yeah, 200 million would do this deal. Do Real Madrid, who are 770 million in debt, do they do the deal at 200 million?
So how do they manage to pull that off?
Let's assume that they can. I don't know what the accountancy is going to be like, but I can't. There's no point in me speculating that.
Yeah.
What Real Madrid in the past have done is they've magicked up a piece of land and they've sold it to the Spanish government, and the Spanish government have wiped their debts because they're the official team of Spain. That's what happens. There's some fix will be found where the Spanish taxpayer will foot the bill for what Real Madrid are doing. So let's assume some gymnastics are happening in the background and the banks are like, yeah, we actually see an opportunity here to get a piece of Real Madrid into the future by coming in and loan sharking effectively for the next period of time. Something will happen for them to be able to find the money if they decide that's the right thing to do. Some sponsor will pony up, and the La Liga will suddenly decide that peace is breaking out, and maybe the DAZN deal gets done, and actually that's the money that they need to do this. And peace. Let's assume that peace can be found. Is 200 million for a player who is obviously still in his athletic peak, but who has proven to be, temperamental. Mm-hmm. It's fair to say. a bit of a risk. It's not risk-free.
It's not like, I mean, it's not risk-free, but I think we're beyond the point of judging value for money, I guess, at this point. Are you going to get this version of Kylian Mbappe that we've seen, which in fairness has fluctuated, if you want to use the evidence of the last few months, between great, absolutely phenomenal and good. And he was good at the Euros, but I think that there's been a far bigger body of evidence to suggest that he is a truly great player. So he signed for Paris Saint-Germain for €180 million. Do you now think that he deserves a transfer fee that is €20 million more than the player who joined Paris Saint-Germain? And I would argue yes, but it is a bonkers fee for anybody who is 1 year away from their contract expiring, and there is absolutely no need for them to be paying that.
Well, I mean, I guess the point is that you're preventing Manchester City from signing him next summer. You're preventing everybody else from coming in and saying, actually, you know what, we can find more money and more riches for you, and you can go to Real Madrid in 4 years' time or 3 years' time. Sign a 5-year deal with City. We guarantee you in 4 years' time we'll sell you to at 26 to Real Madrid, or 27 it would be. You know, you can go and fulfill your teenage dream after you've come and won 3 Champions Leagues for us, and you'll be a global superstar. Not that you're not going to be anyway, but you know what I mean. Like this bit about like spending money on players with 1 year left, it's actually almost more important to spend the money with only 1 year left, because you guarantee there's no risk of you losing that player.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I mean, if they're looking at the initial fee, if we look at the initial fee this morning, it is kind of mad that a fee was tabled for Kylian Mbappe that was only £37 million more than the fee that Manchester City paid for Jack Grealish, because Jack Grealish is a brilliant player and I think he'll be a very good signing for Manchester City. But Kylian Mbappe is more than £37 million better than Jack Grealish, that's for certain. And so you can see why they would want more for him, regardless of how long is left in the contract. I absolutely accept that. But the other way you could look at that is, why aren't Manchester City getting in on the action here this summer? Why haven't Manchester City made him their Jack Grealish signing and actually figured out that this guy has 1 year left in his deal and he may be up for grabs, or at least make inroads and actually signing him? Now, in fairness, that could be happening behind the scenes, and we don't know it. And Manchester City are well aware that Mbappe is going nowhere until next year. The only thing is that Mbappe has said that if he re-signs for Paris Saint-Germain, it'll be for many years to come. And I wonder if when you talk about him moving to the Bernabeu at the age of 26, that actually he'll be moving there from Paris Saint-Germain. And if it's not going to happen this summer, it will actually be a few years before he up sticks and leaves. Like, it's an interesting moment for the French league in general. Like, before this summer, it did always kind of seem strange to me that Mbappe was still in Paris Saint-Germain, given there were 2 or 3 far more competitive leagues for him to go and bring his talents to over the last few years. And I always felt that, you know, he's French, so that makes sense. And his connection to Paris obviously makes sense. So that was it. At the same time, I thought, right, this could happen much sooner, and the Real Madrid overtures have been there for a long, long time at this point. So in many ways, I'm surprised we got this far. But everything changed when Lionel Messi went to Paris Saint-Germain, and I would be surprised, as great as his dream probably is to play for Madrid, that surely you got a dream of playing with Lionel Messi at some point.
Well, okay, what about if you are the star and you're the one who all the billboards are about, and all of a sudden you've got to share that? What if that does not appeal to Kylian Mbappe at the moment, where actually he goes to Real Madrid and he's the biggest star at Real Madrid, which is the biggest club in the world? Like, whatever about Paris Saint-Germain buying their way to Champions League glory. What if you can go to Paris or to Real Madrid and you're the inheritor of the Ronaldo shirt, all the way back to Butragueño, to Hugo Sanchez, to Di Stefano, and that's more important to you, that your ego is like, I ain't sharing top billing here. When Neymar was here, I was still the top dog, because he was like, in that team, it still felt like you wouldn't really say it was Neymar's team, would you? You would have said it was Mbappe's team.
If you had to pick between the two of them, definitely. I do think there was a bit of a shared thing. Like, when it comes to taking Ronaldo's jersey, he's going to have to push Eden Hazard out of the club and rip the number 7 jersey off his back to actually get it. But I think Real Madrid will be happy enough to...
Don't be 7, be your own number, like whatever. Okay. But like, you know, it's I'm the goal scorer, I'm the one who's going to win the titles for you. When the entire stadium whips out their phone to take pictures, it's of Kylian Mbappe as opposed to anybody else in that team. And it's a good time to go to Real Madrid because they're not at an absolute peak. I don't know. I think there's a lot going into this. I think that he is clearly somebody who believes in his own talent. He is somebody who has flopped at the Euros. I don't think he was good. I think by his own standards, he was really disappointing in a team that should have won the Euros. And so this next move is going to be very interesting. Personally, if I was advising him, I would say sit out this last year, play the football with Messi, prove that you are capable of being in the same team and an equal of his, and then we'll take all the money that's on the table next year. We'll take the 100 million. We'll take a 50 million signing on fee. Is that not the right thing to do?
I agree if you're Kylian Mbappe and his financial advisor, 100%, because that is your best opportunity of getting a big fat paycheck come next summer. I wonder how big of a deal is the Mbappe and Benzema relationship and all of this, that obviously they had their bromance going on during the summer, and Karim Benzema is on the phone to Mbappe saying, come play with me for a while, you don't want to be in the shadow playing with those Paris Saint-Germain players, and let's try and build something here at Real Madrid, because that is kind of like their next opportunity. If Real Madrid, the people who run the club, are looking across at Barcelona and seeing their struggles over the last little while, Real Madrid probably see that as a massive opportunity to really stamp their authority as the biggest team in Spain and subsequently the biggest team in Europe. I do think it might be possibly better for European football if this does happen, especially if Ronaldo does go to Manchester City or if Ronaldo goes to Paris Saint-Germain. Let's give La Liga another big slice of pie once again, because they've lost their own share of slices over the last little while.
So let's just follow this through, right? Let's say the Mbappe deal gets done. Who did Paris Saint-Germain sign?
Well, does the Ronaldo to Paris Saint-Germain thing then become a reality? If he goes to Real Madrid this year, which will mean that Paris Saint-Germain will immediately be up 200 million euro, let's say, or 180 million euro. Do they just siphon that off and say, Cristiano, pop on over to Paris, yourself and Messi, we can do this dream team for one season only, and then you can move on to wherever you want to go?
Where does Lewandowski finish up?
Well, Lewandowski is the other option here. So the agent involved, an agent involved in this, because if you're an agent, this is certainly something you want to be involved in as much as possible. The reports are that he's going to try and engineer one of his Bayern Munich players to try and get to Paris Saint-Germain. So there's been talk of Kingsley Coman going to Paris Saint-Germain as well. This is PD Zahavi, by the way, and
right.
So Lewandowski, Coman are two of his clients by all accounts, and a meeting was held at the weekend between Zahavi and Paris Saint-Germain management. So do not be surprised to see a Zahavi client actually show up at Paris if Mbappe were to leave.
Okay. Look, I'm sure somebody is working on the geopolitics in the background. Somebody's putting into our message chat here that the politics of the Emiratis will prevent deals being done between the rival
thinking that actually
countries. But I don't know, is that absolutely the way it works? Is this not a way for them to establish diplomatic ties and go, oh look, I mean, is it not a way? I don't know, who knows. That was Shane on YouTube was giving us that thought. So you can leave your comment on the YouTube stream, youtube.com/offtheball. Turn on notifications for that, and anytime we go live we'll let you know. The best thing at this point is to download the OTB Sports app. Way more people doing it at the moment, because it's the first place that you get your listen to the Paddy and Andy football pod. It goes live there every Tuesday, and then Wednesdays it's live across all the rest of our platforms, and we'll play you a clip from that a little bit later on. Here's what's going up between now and 10 o'clock. If you've got thoughts on Mbappe or Messi or Lewandowski, we'd love to hear from you. So Ireland, we're talking about the Republic of Ireland football team in just a moment. Enda McGinley is going to join us to preview the All-Ireland football semi-final between Tyrone and Kerry at 8:05. We've got the sports pages at 8:30. We've got James Lowe live at 8:45 talking about the new season. And we're going to talk about the Paralympics for you at 9 o'clock, update you on everything that happened overnight. We've got Deal or No Deal at 9:10, which may well end up being an Mbappe special. We've got Gaelic for Mothers at 9:20 with Alison Curtis, and at 9:30 we're playing you Nickie Quaid. So a packed show between now and 10 a.m. this morning. As I said, we'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, and OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. So let's leave Mbappe behind for now and talk about the Republic of Ireland, because there's a big back-to-back fixture coming up. It's an opportunity for us to see some progress. It's like, hopefully, with largely vaccinated squad, the Ireland team will be free from any of the COVID disasters that have beset Stephen Kenny since he took over. You've been looking at this and the form that our players are in.
Yeah.
For the first time, there is some players in good form. I think it's fair to say that there's a little bit of... No, you're shaking your head.
let's not... I take you back to the start of the 2020-21 season when we were like, James McCarthy is back, Jeff Hendrick is back, Shane Duffy's on his way to Celtic, he is going to shoot the lights out up in Scotland. We are going to be absolutely fine. We're qualifying for the Euros anyway. We'll probably qualify for Qatar before the Euros even comes around. And then things just completely went awry for a number of different reasons. So yeah, this day, next week, plus 12 hours, we will probably be listening to Aaron Naveen as Ireland play Portugal. These things tend to come around very quickly, all the time. And it's back to back to back, let's not forget it. It's Portugal, then on the Saturday it's Azerbaijan, and then the following Tuesday it's Serbia. So there are three humongous fixtures. And as you say, it's kind of, there are moments of encouragement if you want to look back through the last little while. So Stephen Kenny obviously went to England over the course of last weekend. His first stop was to watch Ryan Manning on Friday night at centre-back against Bristol City for Swansea. Manning is somebody who's going to be in the squad. He's somebody that Stephen Kenny's obviously gone out of his way to watch. And I wonder if he's going to be somebody that he's got in his starting plans, because Enda Stevens is one of the bigger injury worries that he has. He's not an injury worry, he's out. He's done in terms of this international window and maybe even the international window beyond that. He's been playing actually in the middle of the back three. That's what Stephen Kenny saw last Friday. I wonder if he's actually going to take Enda Stevens' place as left wing back. Obviously, James McLean is the number one contender for that position, you'd imagine. But if Kenny's going to watch this guy, I wonder could he be the deputy for Stevens? As people probably saw then, he went down to watch Brighton against Watford on Saturday. That was to watch Shane Duffy and Aaron Connolly. And Duffy is the big good news story from an Irish perspective at the moment. Like Graham Potter just saying how everyone loves him, how the staff have always loved him, delighted what's happening. And he does point out, and I think it's worth remembering, about the tough year that he's had, losing his father suddenly, and obviously that has an extremely tough toll on him, living in a city he's not overly familiar with, in lockdown, and then his form just plummeting as well. So for him to respond has been brilliant. He's had a little bit of the rub of the green, let's not forget, like Dan Byrne is injured, Ben White has been sold to Arsenal, but he's taken that opportunity unbelievably well, and most importantly from Stephen Kenny's perspective, he's playing in a back three. As I mentioned, Ryan Manning playing in a back three, Shane Duffy playing in a back three, and a back three is what Stephen Kenny used against Hungary in the second of those two friendlies at the start of the summer. So I wonder if this is actually what he's going to go with over the next little while.
It makes the most sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, particularly in the game against Portugal, right?
I would have thought so. And if you kind of like look at the different constellations of players that you got there, so like O'Shea, Egan and Duffy are all fit at the moment. Obviously, Kieran Clark has been somebody who's played quite a bit for him so far, but I think O'Shea, Egan and Duffy are probably your three best central defenders at this point. Kieran Clark started the season for Newcastle, didn't play overly well, then got dropped for the second game of the season. So I think it's those three. And well, if you're going with those three, then you're assuming that one of Coleman or Doherty is not going to start. And given Doherty's beginning to the season, Coleman is well ahead of him in the pecking order, you'd assume, from an Irish perspective. So that's one of the only wildcards I could see, is that if they go for Coleman at the right of a three and then play Doherty as right wing back, if they're going to go with a three at the back. And then obviously, as I mentioned, your left wing back, who is going to be the identity of that player if they are playing the three at the back. Like the other player we should mention that he went over to see in Brighton was Aaron Connolly. And he'd been left out of the opening game due to personal reasons, came off the bench after Mope injured his shoulder and should have scored, and he didn't. And this, at that moment, looked like a great opportunity for Aaron Connolly, because Mope's injury looked pretty bad, but Graham Potter's after coming out since, and he's like, yeah, he could be in contention for the weekend. Right. I thought he had actually dislocated his shoulder, to be honest, but that doesn't seem to be the case whatsoever. Danny Welbeck is coming back, so
Aaron Connolly has a tiny window here to try
Correct.
and get himself into the team and just change the mood music around his career at the moment, which is not as positive as it was when he was obviously putting in man of the match performance and, you know, running was at Spurs, he ran ragged.
Yeah.
Needs to get back to that.
Yeah. Absolutely, and as you say, it is a tiny window. He's still going to get opportunities off the bench and playing for a really good side who are actually going to deliver on all their expected goals potential this year. The problem is when Connolly misses a sitter like that, the XG curse tends to creep back into the minds of Brighton and Hove Albion. Just a couple of other good news stories, if you want to call them that, from the Republic of Ireland over the last little while. There's no question that the West Brom story has been a good news story for Ireland. That club taking Callum Robinson and Darragh O'Shea down to the Championship has been good for Ireland. They've scored in the same game on 2 occasions already so far this season.
So Darragh O'Shea's in the team, right?
That's what I mean. Like, O'Shea on form has to play, and Duffy on form has to play, and Egan, all things considered, I haven't seen Egan play yet this season, but he's there and he absolutely has to start. So for me, that's kind of your back three. Like, unless the right-sided nature and as a matter of fact, the left-sided nature of that back three is such a specialised issue for Stephen Kenny that you can't get all three of them into the back three.
Well, can Darragh O'Shea play there?
Possibly, yeah, and he has done for Ireland, hasn't he? Or he's played on the left of the back two anyway. So, I don't see.
Darragh O'Shea play left back at the back four, and then we clog the midfield. Is that another alternative?
Like, I mean, absolutely. Well, like the midfield is one of the issues and one of the areas where there might be a little bit of creativity, I suspect, over the next little while, because there's a couple of problems. Just to go through some of the other players who've done relatively well over the last little while, like James McLean scored on his second debut for Wigan Athletic. Troy Parrott obviously has been one of the big stories that this MK Dons stint is already a better stint than his Ipswich or Millwall stint, I think it's fair to say, when it comes to his loan moves. 2 goals to date for him. Scott Hogan's been going well, scored twice against Luton Town in the Championship at the weekend. Shawnee Maguire, who hasn't really been in Stephen Kenny's plans at all, has been playing for Preston. And then last night you had Aidan O'Brien, who scored his first hat-trick since 2015 for Sunderland. So those are like very much wild cards, with the exception of Parrott, who is going to be in the plans. It's just a matter of, will he come off the bench? If he is on the bench, or will he start? The two kind of kids who've really stood out so far this season are obviously Gavin Bazunu, who keeps keeping clean sheets for Portsmouth, and Danny Cowley, who is their manager, just talking up Bazunu, not so much on keeping clean sheets, but in terms of his contribution to attacking play. There was this beautiful move that was shared on the Portsmouth's Twitter account. There was a weekend before last where it was one of these 20-something passes before the ball is put into the back of the net, and Bazunu's like popping out to make the back two a back three and just helping the ball get up the pitch a little bit quicker. He's been saying that a lot, Cowley, that it's his contribution to the attack as much as anything else that makes Bazunu an outstanding keeper, and that is obviously exactly what we want from the Republic of Ireland goalkeeper. Like, the 3 big hitters and goals are available for this window. Randolph, Kelleher and Bazunu will all be available.
Who's playing football?
Like, to me, Bazunu's playing football, Kelleher's not playing football, Randolph's not playing football. So I think it's not a straightforward decision because Darren Randolph's there, but I think
it's straightforward. It is straightforward, isn't it? You've got to go with Bazunu.
I think so. And
there's a piece today that Paul Rowan has written for the London Times, and he's making the point that Randolph's not even getting on the bench at the moment for West Ham. Like, you know, I totally understand these guys have got to make professional decisions to go and earn as much money as they possibly can, because that's their gig. But when we have a goalkeeper who's playing, and, you know, like, there are definitely going to be growing pains with Gavin Bazunu, but he is our number 1 goalkeeper for the foreseeable future if he continues to play football at this level. And maybe Quaid Kelleher eventually makes it as the Liverpool goalkeeper, at which point, great. But as a sub-goalkeeper at Liverpool, we don't know how good he's going to be. And we don't have any evidence yet about how great he's going to be. He might play 10 times this season, right? And in fairness, Alison has tended to miss games. So fingers crossed that he plays the League Cup games, the FA Cup games. If there's any dead rubbers in the Champions League, he'll get some experience in that as well. And, you know, maybe Becker's out for an injury here, or he's rested here or there, and he could play 10 to 12 games this season. But Bazunu's going to play 50 games, right?
Yeah, like, the thing is that Bazunu is 3 years younger than Kelleher, doesn't have maybe he hasn't travelled down the path as far as Kelleher, but he's in a far better position than Kelleher if you're going to get your chance in the international team, because in a little way Kelleher is kind of trapped in that position. Alison may not have any more injury troubles for the foreseeable future. Yes, he might get his opportunity in the EFL or FA Cup, but he may also not get the opportunities he got last year when Alison has been relatively unlucky in the context of a goalkeeper with his injury history. So it could be another year, it could be another 2 years before Alison gets injured and he gets a proper run in the Liverpool team, whereas Bazunu's playing every single week, playing with a team that are competitive and want to get back to the Championship and may win a trophy this year in terms of getting that promotion, and that'll bring him on so much, even though he's only 19 years of age. So I think he is the starting goalkeeper. The other kid that I mentioned that like has really made waves over the last little while is Gavin Kilkenny with Bournemouth. 21-year-old from Dublin playing under Scott Parker at the moment. David Sneyd did a really good piece on him last week and kind of spoke to one of his long-term advisors / agents, who says sometimes young kids want too much too quickly and don't believe in the process or the people around him. He's not 6 foot 2 inches or built like a battering ram. He's a technical player and one of the most exciting I've seen for Ireland since Wes Hoolahan. Now you'll say, of course, his agent would say that, but the reports have been really encouraging. He's played winger in his youth career, attacking midfielder over the last little while, but he's been played in a much deeper role for Bournemouth under Scott Parker, sitting in front of the defence. So he'll probably get a call up to the squad at this point. And when it comes to that midfield, I think opportunity knocks over the next little while, because obviously Jason Knight went into a challenge with Wayne Rooney in training and will not be available for selection. Conor Hourihane did captain Aston Villa last night, and you'd assume still has enough credit in the bank to be starting for Ireland, as does Josh Cullen, who is the first name on the team sheet in midfield. And those two players, if you're going to have two in midfield, if you're going to play a back three, then it probably does force Kilkenny out of the starting 11 plans completely. But I still think that there's an opportunity in midfield that is a problem area for Ireland consistently over the last few years.
He played for Bournemouth as they got beaten 6-0 by Norwich.
He did. I did notice that last night.
EFL Cup. Mark Travers didn't play. He is Bournemouth's number one goalkeeper at the moment. Scott Parker has apparently given him the nod. That's according to that piece that Paul Rowan has today as well. So we actually have 4 viable goalkeepers for the first time in our lives. Can we play all 4? Is there like we just be this muscular team who batters everybody now that the refereeing has changed?
Yeah, but maybe we should. And like the quality of the defender as well is not going to get in this team, I think is consistently very good as well. It's just that everything up until you start getting into your essential midfield positions is good. Like, as I mentioned there, Kieran Clark did start Newcastle's first game, lost his place for the second game of the season. You've got Liam Scales, who's definitely going to be in contention over the next little while. His move to Celtic is probably imminent, but he could be the League of Ireland representative in this squad. Danny Mandrew was called up to the last squad. And I don't think he got any game time in those two games, or did he come off the bench in one of them? Actually, apologies, don't have that actually to hand. And it'll be Scales this time who's the representative if there's only going to be one. Like, when you look at the rest of that defence, then for me it is that left-sided question, and James McLean actually scoring goals at the moment and going for experience with your left wing back may actually be the way that they go. Just a couple of the other not so good stories, as I mentioned. Like, I wonder about Adam Ida at the moment, like what he's kind of thinking. He got a few minutes off the bench versus Liverpool, then didn't play versus City. Obviously, like, that's totally forgivable if you want experience, but he didn't play he didn't start that game that you mentioned there, the 6-0 against Bournemouth last night. He came off the bench in the 6-0 rout. Like, that would be the sort of game you'd like to see Ida start.
Balotelli did start.
He did start and played a full game.
Yeah.
And
it would be brave and progressive for Balotelli to start in that 3 alongside Darragh O'Shea and one other.
It would be. I can't see him doing it, given the way Duffy and the way Duffy has started, basically, because that is the position that was up for grabs. I don't think O'Shea and Egan are going to get usurped in the pecking order by Balotelli just yet.
Who knows? I mean, I've got a conspiracy theory about Norwich and their start of the Premier League season, that they want to put Balotelli in the team, but that the start of the season was so difficult, they were like, we're going to ease you in, as opposed to having your confidence thrashed by, well, what's going to happen against Man City. Likely. It could finish 5-0. Hey. So I don't know. I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see Andrew Balotelli nail down a place in the Norwich team between now and October.
It'd be class. I'm just really looking forward to seeing him play in the Premier League over the next little while. Just to kind of go through some of the other injuries then that are going to pop up and will probably become apparent when the squad is announced tomorrow. Obviously mentioned Stevens and Jason Knight, probably the two big ones. Jason Malumbi went off for the Brighton under-23s at the weekend, again maybe opening up a place in midfield. He definitely would have felt like he'd be getting game time. Chidozie Ogbeni, who made a real impact off the bench against Hungary, probably should have scored. He got a hamstring injury at the weekend for Rotherham against Sheffield United. He's definitely going to miss all 3 games. Ogbeni, like, he got a bad knee injury in September last year, needed an operation, was due to come back in early February, and then was pushed back until late in the month because he needed another minor procedure, I think, at that point. So he's been really unlucky with injuries at the moment, and somebody that I think that we're all really excited to see pull on the green of Ireland again after his performance against Hungary. Good old COVID-19, as has reared its head in one case. Alan Brown had been isolating due to being a COVID close contact. So hopefully that's not a factor going into this game, because for me, Alan Brown is a starter and he's been another player who has really excelled under Stephen Kenny. Callum O'Dowda is just on the way back from an injury at the moment. And then the last one to mention is James McCarthy, who is, I think, I'm not sure, was it COVID or was it some other reason, but it was unclear anyway why he wasn't in the squad for the St Mirren game when Celtic hammered them at the weekend. It'll be interesting to see now if he's going to be in the AZ Alkmaar squad, the squad to play Alkmaar in Europe this week, because James McCarthy, as I say, kind of provided us with a little bit of hope at the start of last season when he was starting in that Palace midfield, and the season didn't end up going too well for him.
Okay. Give me your starting 11.
Starting at 11, so as I mentioned, there'll be Bazunu in goals. I think he'll go for O'Shea, Egan, Duffy as your back three. Maybe there's a slight lack of mobility there, or maybe on the left of a three he wants to go for someone else. I'd like to see Ryan Manning as left wing back, and I would go for him, and Coleman as your right wing back, so no place for Matt Doherty in this team. Midfield so I'll go for a 3-4-1-2, by the way, so your four, so to speak, in the middle would be Cullen and Hourihan, with Brown just in front of them, and then Robinson and Connolly up front. So Robinson kind of pulling right, maybe with Brown picking up central positions, and Connolly on the left when they're in possession. And maybe that's not the way they go for all three games, because it is Portugal up front. Cristiano Ronaldo going for that goal scoring record. He equalled Ali Day, didn't he? And he didn't surpass him, so that's what he's got to do over the next little while. Like Portugal have been like a bit of a mixed bag, because obviously they were in the group of death and then get out of the group of death and get beaten by Belgium. But before that, in the build-up to the Euros, when they were playing their World Cup qualifiers, they only beat Azerbaijan 1-0. They had to come from behind against Luxembourg. Let's not forget they ended up beating them 3-1. And then they had that mad draw with Serbia. So, Portugal in these World Cup qualifiers haven't been great, but it is Portugal. And probably, I could see John Fallon making the point this morning that it's probably the best team Ireland have played since either Belgium or France at Euro 2016. And he's not wrong. All right,
okay. Give us your thoughts on the Ireland team. Who should be in, who should not be in? Who do you want to see? What are you excited about? And how much faith do you have in the Kenny era at the moment? I think I don't know, just from very unscientific, looking at the comments and the texts that come in, people have got behind this team and the fact that there's significant change and the fact that there are some kids who are starting to make it. And they're making it at championship level. They're not making it in the Premier League the way our kids used to make it in the Premier League. But the game has changed and the world has changed. So I think there's a bit of excitement about the team, and I hope there's a bit of patience. It certainly seems like there's patience coming from the FAI's perspective anyway. So fingers crossed Kenny gets this campaign, and then it's the next campaign where Bazunu has 10-15 caps and Darragh O'Shea has 20 caps, and a bunch of those players have come through and we actually okay, this is your team and they're going to play a certain style and it either works or it doesn't, and then we get to judge fairly that there have been training camps where you've actually got to sit with the players and explain in person because you're all vaccinated and you can share the room with each other, as opposed to, okay, you got 15 minutes. It's like a speed dating scenario, which isn't great for team morale, team building, or indeed for just installing a game plan. So
just one last point very quickly is that just looking at the game, the Hungary game, Stephen Kenny can actually play the exact same team with the exception of Jason Knight out for a different player, just looking at that because of the availability of players. And it was Darragh O'Shea on the left of the back three with Shane Duffy on the right of the back three, if Google is to be believed, with Egan in the middle.
Okay, so I think that might be the first time he's been able to do anything like that, where it's like a similar team from one squad to the next and a similar squad from one squad to the next. So let's wait and see. It's just gone 3 minutes past 8 here this morning on OTB AM. A very busy show for the next hour. We're going to talk with the Ireland and Leinster star James Lowe. Up next, we're talking Tyrone Kerry with Enda McGinley.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
OTB Sports, in association with Cadbury FC and their club partnerships, are returning for another series of in-depth chats with some of the biggest names in Premier League and Irish football history.
With access to all areas, we chat to some of the legendary names from the big clubs and meet the crucial people behind the scenes who make a Premier League club what it is.
First up, Champions League and Premier League winners Roberto Di Matteo and Karen Carney will join us for our Access All Areas Chelsea special, along with coach Lisa Fallon.
Coming to all OTB's social channels soon.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Auto Mower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
Get ready for the new season with Now.
The Premier League at its best.
Stream moments of pure magic. Sensational strikes.
It's an absolute stunner.
And unbearable tension.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Stream every live game with the world's best, now half price for 3 months.
Take your seat. You'll be on the edge of it for much of the time.
Offer ends September 5th, 18 plus content stream via internet.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
As I understand it, the Dublin Lions, where they were taking part in some kind of Philadelphia Sixers camp, and they spot a 13-year-old you at 6'5", and a few people start to think, hang on, this kid is cut above the average here.
Yes, absolutely. It was just a great experience to even be able to go to America and go to this camp. And that the whole plan wasn't for me to actually stay here. I went to the 76ers camp, as you said, and was given the opportunity to play against pretty decent competition. And it was I was very scared, but I was going to go out there and just have fun, because to me, I'm just an Irish kid playing against the Americans. The Americans are like, they're really good at basketball, you know what I mean? And so I just went out there, and I just ended up being a special talent out there. I wasn't aware that I was that tall for my age, and I wasn't aware because really when I came over, the stuff that I was doing at that 76ers camp, I was not doing back at home in Ireland. It was a switch. Because it's a funny story, because I couldn't dunk the basketball before I came to America. But all of a sudden, when I got to the 76ers camp, I was punching it, like I was dunking it with ease. So I just feel like it was God, I feel like it was God that just like, okay, this is your time to show what you can do. And it was just like a switch. It was a literal switch. Wow. As much as the people were surprised at what I was doing, I was surprised at what I was doing.
I can sort of picture your mates looking over going, when the hell did this start?
Yes. Especially one of my best friends, Owen Murphy. He was a year older than me, but he played on the same team. And he was looking at me like, when did you start doing that? Like, what's the story that you made? Like, what the hell? And I was just like, I have no idea. Like, I woke up and I felt good,
Enda McGinley, an Irish kid playing college basketball in the States, our best basketballer at the moment, and our best and brightest hope for potentially, hopefully someday making it all the way to certainly a pro career. Whether or not it's a pro career in the NBA, we'll have to wait and see, not to put too much pressure on him. Brilliant story. Speaking with Joe last night, the podcast is available in OTB Highlights. Get on that. It's a good half hour of your time. A brilliant introduction to a rising star in Irish sport. So, we're still waiting for an Irish NBA star, but
second one. After Pat.
Yeah.
I thought this guy was, I'm not going to lie, struggling after Louisville, after things didn't go his way there. But it's really interesting to actually hear him chat to Joe last night and say, when you're picking a college, you've really got to find out the style of play and whether or not you're going to fit in with the coach's plans. Like Louisville has this incredible program where they've produced so many incredible stars, like Donovan Mitchell, for example, would have been a recent enough graduate from Louisville. And obviously the attraction to the college is the brand, but the attraction to a college, he's now realised, has to be the coach. And things like Grand Canyon have gone pretty well for him so far. So he's back on track after what I honestly thought was a story that maybe hadn't gone his way, because it's just such a thin line between being an absolutely unbelievable basketball player but then actually being an NBA player.
Yeah. I mean, fingers crossed, because I think it would lift the whole sport here massively. Right, it's 8 minutes past 8. It's time for us to turn our attention to the All-Ireland football semi-final. I'm delighted to say Enda McGinley, the Antrim manager, 3-time All-Ireland winner with Tyrone, is with us to help preview the game. Enda, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, Ger. I'm good.
So, what's your general sense of how well Tyrone are in the build-up to this match, and how well they're going to be able to acquit themselves this weekend?
Yeah, going from the sort of the vibe you're getting, I think they're delighted that everybody's back. I don't think they expected to have everybody back. But that's how it's looking at the minute. I think they are that wee bit nervous that another case will come up, or there's other things just around the corner, because I suppose what has happened has sort of shook their confidence that you never really know what's around the corner. But I think as a squad, they're delighted that they're here. There will be, they're not saying it, but I think deep down there has to be a wee bit of apprehension among those that have been maybe more heavily affected by it in terms of their energy levels and how they're going to come through a game at this level. But at the same stage, I suppose, like we've all been saying for a long time now, anything that you're getting with COVID is a bonus. And for Tyrone, they're in a wee bit of bonus territory. The pressure's off them a wee bit. But I think within the squad, they want a chance to repay the favour. Well, not repay the favour, but at least do themselves justice to what happened in Killarney or earlier in the year. I think that has left a bit of a scar within the group.
It's so, I think maybe after the game is over and they tell us about which players were suffering and who had the impact of it and who didn't have the impact, it's impossible for us previewing the game to fully do justice to it, because all things being equal, if Tyrone were fully fit and there had been no COVID in the camp, I'm not saying it's a 50-50 game, but it's pretty close to it. Like, certainly the dynamic runners that Tyrone have, the energy they have, the new style of play they have, the age profile of the team, the experience of the team, they would be right there with Kerry, I think, particularly given that there are so many doubts about Kerry, flaky in last year's championship, sensational the championship the year before. There would be huge imponderables. But as it is, the bookies have Kerry 7-1 on. And, it's hard to argue with that, but at the same time, it doesn't make any sense. Apart from COVID.
I didn't realise it was as much as 7-1 on. Like that's exceptionally strong, to be honest. From a Tyrone point of view, every now and then you'd be sort of playing devil's advocate and be saying, "Jeez, is there much chance for us at all down here, given what happened earlier in the year?" And pretty much everybody is saying, "Here, you never know." And I think there's a quiet confidence that the team can put in a real performance. Like the whole COVID thing, there's as long as the players haven't been very adversely affected, and I'd be hoping that is the case, there's a real sense there of a circling of the wagons. I think the team as a group of players will see what that new management team, how they handled a really, really difficult situation. They came out really strongly with a team first, player first approach. They were prepared to pull out, although I suppose some people would be saying they were just playing a good hand of poker. But from a management team point of view, they acquitted themselves brilliantly, really, really astutely. The players will have gained confidence from that. The fact that the management put the players first, and the players will be looking forward to this massively. They will know that it is a shot to nothing to a certain extent. Mayo and Kerry both are, for want of, or using the cliche that we're all using now in terms of further along that development pathway. But at the same stage, Tyrone, I think in the players that have been coming back, to form, I think they'll know that they can give Kerry a game. I think the balance of the team, I think the defensive quality that they've shown earlier this year, I think they know that, yes, Kerry, of course, is going to pose a test, maybe like no other team in the country can pose a test in terms of your defensive strength. But that's a test I think Tyrone will feel that they'll want to take on. And I certainly wouldn't be thinking that there's too many in the Tyrone camp are thinking that they're rank outsiders here.
How good are Tyrone as a county at utilising something like this to create a greater energy on the day, to create a siege mentality, particularly from the perspective of Brian Dooher as somebody who you know very well? Because it does seem that from what Niall Morgan is saying over the last couple of days, he's like, it's the most embarrassed I've ever been after a game with regards to the league match. It really feels like they've gone quite hard on themselves after that. They've been almost quite open about the impact that the COVID situation will have on them. That privately, are they harnessing that in a positive manner, in a way that says, lads, we're waiting in the long grass here? Absolutely. Look, I think any GA team loves a good chip on the shoulder. I think that is the motivation 101 for GA teams, and Tyrone's certainly no stranger to that end of things. So any chip on the shoulder at all just gives you that wee bit more of an edge. And for me, there's nothing wrong with that. Sports psychologists might say that's a negative energy and eventually it peters out. But every now and then for the certain games, it's absolutely great. And Tyrone do have that advantage. It's really difficult for Kerry coming into this game.
knowing that they absolutely hammered, like it really did embarrass Tyrone, and quite rightly so down in Killarney. Tyrone were miles off the pace. They did not perform like a county team. The old, again, going back to the cliches of modern sport in terms of the standards that teams set themselves, and they have to live up to them standards, and all of this sort of chat is the talk of any any county team at the minute. Tyrone will know that they let themselves down badly in Killarney. I think it was put in fairly straight ways to them in the video analysis session following that, particularly by Brian Dooher. And they'll be stung by that. There was a lot of personal criticism. The likes of Niall himself came out of that game personally. He had a bit of a nightmare that day. Like any player with any sense of what they're about will want to get out and go at that team again, and will not want to come out off the pitch in the same way. And you've got that across multiple players within Tyrone. As well as that, you've other players coming back, the likes of McShane coming back, who'll be ready to sort of really stand up. I think the extra couple of weeks will have helped him. Conor McKenna was really coming back in form. He had a really poor National League. He was carrying sort of an injury throughout the whole thing, and struggling, only found out about the injury afterwards, and it suddenly made sense because I think he's got on top of it now, and he looked a better player, a much better player just before during the Ulster campaign. So Tyrone will know that they're a different team completely than Killarney, and they'll know that Kerry were in their absolute pomp, and everybody now knows that this Kerry team, if you give them a chance to run at you, they are going to destroy you. But even Cork, even in that Munster final, like Cork in the first half and even a bit of the second half, whenever Cork were running at them, Kerry weren't world beaters either. So they're not a finished complete team just yet. They have talent, like just extraordinary talent really, but they have weaknesses too. And the Tyrone game plan, look, probably even from an energy level point of view, Tyrone will probably know they need to play this game a wee bit more conservatively. I think that suits when looking at the team that they're taking on. I think sitting a wee bit more compact, hitting on the break and then building yourself into the game, I think that suits both the Tyrone situation from a COVID point of view, but also for taking on Kerry, just to frustrate that Kerry forward line a wee bit more, and then look for the opportunities to put them on the back foot.
So what do Tyrone have in their armoury to exploit those Kerry weaknesses that you mentioned?
They've obviously got the running game that they are well versed, but they do have real attacking threat, particularly if the likes of Conor McKenna and Kylian McShane, which looks to be the case, are fit for this game. You've Darren McCurry, who's in as good a vein of form as I've seen him, particularly, and this is the strange thing, he had a poor game against Donegal, and yet he really stuck at it and kept at it. And Darren McCurry, for too many game times, whenever the game was going well, he was the best forward in the pitch and he could really fly. But whenever the game was tougher and things just weren't rolling as well, sometimes he had much quieter games whenever the team needed him most. I thought during the Ulster campaign he showed a real maturity of the game, because there was times the game wasn't quite running for him, and yet he still got big scores, and that's what Tyrone needs for him. But in them three men, they've got real forward potential. They've obviously got a strong bench. They've shown that throughout the Ulster campaign. I think in their new midfield partnership, Con Kilpatrick, Brian Kennedy, they are very much learning the ropes at this stage, but they give a physical presence and a work rate there that I think will work nicely against Kerry. And particularly the big thing for me is the quality of their defensive performances. Padraig Hampshire, Ronan McNamee, brilliant. Michael McKiernan going really well. Michael O'Neill, centre half back, going really well. So from a Tyrone point of view, there is more players on form than maybe we've had in a wee while, and that gives you a really good place to be, particularly when you're coming into a game largely written off.
Totally written off. They're absolutely totally written off. Those prices for an All-Ireland semi-final, I can't remember anything like it for an Ulster champion team who are Ulster champions. Maybe Cavan, but that was a complete one-off. This is a team who we haven't even talked about the recovery of Matty Donnelly and the form that he's in. Like, I'd seen Matty Donnelly in a walking boot on crutches at a conference in Croke Park, I'd say two Januaries ago, and thought, Jesus, I really hope he manages to make it back, but never expected him to be back to the same level he was at before the injury. like that type of recovery, that type of performance he was able to put in the Ulster Championship is the type of thing that really makes the rest of the teammates sit up and go, something special is happening here.
And again, his form line is sort of reflects very much the team. Like again, Tyrone didn't do, ironically enough, they struck really tightly to the deadlines. They only give themselves 3-4 weeks of on-pitch work before the National League, and they were a wee bit off colour compared to other teams, and I think that showed. Then the personnel within that, some of them were struggling for form. They weren't quite clicking or hitting certainly to their levels during the National League. But during the championship, like Matty again didn't start brilliantly in the championship, but then he suddenly started to find his groove and become much more prominent. With that, like against the Donegal team, there was a literal feeling that the team threw off the shackles and suddenly discovered a confidence in themselves and a feeling as if they looked around themselves and said, lads, you know what, there's something here. There was the form of the boys on the pitch was starting to click. There was the quality of the men coming off the bench was really good. And suddenly it looked like a confident, serious team, you know, and I had no doubt at all in terms of Ulster final come that stage. And then a couple of weeks and what has happened since will have bonded that group together. They know it's far from ideal, but that sort of creates in adversity, there's always a chance to develop a bit of strength. And I think they'll have done that. I think they'll have grown in faith and confidence in terms of their new management team as well. So, look, without a doubt, they are up against it. Kerry are a phenomenal team. The quality of football they've played, I think it was working out. I think their average winning margin, if we take the Dublin game out of this year where they drew, their average winning margin is something like 11 or 12 points. Like this team is sensational in terms of their quality up front. But they know, Kerry know themselves, that they haven't been fully tested this year in a real horrible game, and you do not win championships without coming through a horrible, tough game where things aren't quite flowing for you. It's up to Tyrone to bring that to them, and I think Tyrone can. I think they're in a position to. I think Tyrone, maybe the whole COVID thing could be a blessing too, because without it, Tyrone might have been coming in really right. Let's express ourselves, let's do all this. I think they know they have to maybe park that, and this is a game just to get down into the trenches and work and look. From what Limerick have done, from what Mayo have done, work rate and that heart and that desire carries you a massive length away in these big games. And I don't think Tyrone, COVID or not, I don't think Tyrone will be short of that come this weekend, and that for me gives them every chance.
We had Rory Beggan on the show yesterday and talking about the importance of Niall Morgan. Does the importance of Niall Morgan almost become greater given what you're talking about there and how shrewd they need to be with their energy? Like you mentioned Kennedy and Kilpatrick there, two lads you'd suspect who could give maybe perhaps even a less mobile Kerry midfield unit real problems off a long kick out.
Yeah, the whole kick-out scenario obviously is going to be massive. Kerry are bringing a few new tactics to the game as well on that front, and I think Tyrone will have had a good chance to sit down and watch that. So how Niall Morgan deals with that will be really interesting. For me, regarding Niall, it's just really key. There's a lot of chat obviously about him and Rory Beggan and the change that they're bringing to goalkeeping and the very much sort of the Ulster final, which became a crazy type game. But I think we need to be cautious in terms of that. And I think what happened in Killarney will Niall won't want a repeat of that. But I think certainly a goalkeeper that's involved in play, that's fine. But I think there is going to be a wee happy balance, and if they go too gung-ho, I'd imagine Kerry would have a wee plan for that. But in terms of the ability to break down Kerry's really heavy press on a kick-out where Shane Ryan comes up and even their full-back comes up too and leaving their forwards in behind, I think that's a key thing that Tyrone will have looked at. It will probably happen at some stage. It could be very effective, but at the same stage, I think it will be a really high risk strategy for Kerry, because if Tyrone are sitting looking at that, I'd imagine they'll have a plan in place, like the Donegal type method of punching a ball on when it's landing in midfield to men running towards the opponent's goals. If you've got the likes of those two midfielders, Matty Donnelly can come out, even Cathal McShane can follow his man out as well, and suddenly you have a big line of men across the middle that if that ball's going really long over that Kerry press, you can get right at that Kerry defence. And For me, if a team is really, really trying to do that high press, that is them threatening you. But I think he can answer that right back with a threat right to them. And I think Tyrone will have seen that, and I'd imagine will have a plan in place. But the whole kick-out scenario is going to be fascinating, as it always is in the modern game. And Niall, for me, he's been absolutely outstanding. For me, a lovely, boring, really, really solid goalkeeping performance would be perfect.
I was going to say, so you're not actually actively encouraging him to get over the halfway line, because Rory Beggan was like saying that it kind of came into play more for him in the last 10 minutes of a game where you're chasing it, but that the next iteration is straight from the get-go. First 10 minutes, I'm going to be wandering up the field next year. That's what he expects to see.
Yeah, and it is possible. It does seem to open up a wealth of possibilities, because it is all about getting an overlap. It's so critical for teams now in terms of tracking of runners and not having that sort of overlap, because that just even one loose man, one overlap can really spring your defence open. And so there's a lot of work done in terms of tracking runners. But if you inevitably create an extra man out there, how do you deal with that? It is exceptionally difficult. I still just think there will be opportunities for the defensive team in that regard to create channels, to create sort of dead end alleys, to shut that down, and then to spring an even more effective counter-attack when, with the team so out of position, you usually want somebody holding at the back. And goalkeepers, a lot of the modern goalkeepers, particularly the likes of Morgan, play a lot of outfield for the club, but at inter-county level, outfield play, you can be showing up at times, so there is still that risk, and they are massively important as communicators. Like a sweeper keeper might be a happy medium if the goalkeepers are intent on being involved, because they tend to be brilliant communicators, and that communication and the organisation of the defence and the seeing what's in front of you, you need somebody at home organising that. And being able to take that role. But if the goalkeeper's way up the pitch, it certainly leaves you a man down in that pretty important role.
One of the things we wanted to chat to you as well about Enda this morning, I'm not sure, did you read Kevin McStay yesterday talking about the macho culture that exists in the GAA. machismo is the greatest stain on Gaelic games. It is deemed better for a Gaelic footballer to be an assassin or a thug than soft or windy, he said in the sub-headline of that Irish Times piece. Is that something that you've noticed throughout your playing days, throughout your management days to date, that there is that culture of machismo in GAA?
It's a contact. For me, it's a contact sport, and it's an aggressive contact sport, and when you're on the pitch, you're tested in every faculty. So we all know that if there's a really, really skillful young forward, he will get particular testing to see if the other aspects of his game, his courage, matches up to his skills. Now, if we want to address that as machismo, it's part of the sport. You have to measure up. Come a big game at county level for me, there was, by that stage, I suppose you've passed most of your tests or your questions, otherwise you wouldn't be that length. But there is a massive question mark on the courage of any player, both in dealing with their own demons and dealing with setbacks on the pitch, but in terms of the physicality that opponent might give you as well. Now, for me, it never really made any sense, and it sort of always washed over me, that side of it. But some players are maybe a wee bit weaker in that regard, and they can be targeted. That's obviously, maybe it's not ideal, but it's part of the skill set of any player to be able to deal with those things. Is that the right way to be? It's probably not ideal. Just thinking off the top of my head, it's probably not ideal, but I think it's deeply ingrained in the sport, that the sport itself is a physical sport. It's a physical test. It's a test of both your skill, your physicality, your courage, your ability to work hard to put your body through a level of work rate and an intensity of work rate that many others would question. I think when we see our best players, so around here, I suppose we always go to Peter Canavan, but why he gained so much respect was not because of his skill set, but because of the fight and the battle that he had, and he got tested more and more and more, and the fact that his mental health in that regard earned him a level of respect. I suppose so many of the cliches that we use in dressing rooms about who's the man that you would want in your trenches. When you're going into battle, that's the player that you have beside you. Like, a lot of that's all about the manliness of it and the going to battle of it. And maybe we're a ancient sort of clan culture, and the clans used to do battle, and we don't do that nowadays. And maybe this is our form of, you're fighting for your territory, you're fighting for the pride in the jersey. And so when we talk about all of that, and all of that for me is good. You want that pride in the jersey. You're playing for where you're from, you're playing for your family, you're playing for your boys that you grew up with. Whenever you put that sense of pride on it and that sense of identity on it, then that other aspect, I think, is going to come into it. I absolutely detest the crap in the game, the sort of the unnecessary man-to-man sort of antagonism that is allowed and goes unpunished, the interference with men way off the ball. I would think we can easily iron that out of the game by bringing in an Aussie rules type thing where no physical contact is allowed unless you're actually contesting for a ball, or within that contest for a ball. Verbal's not there. We can stamp down harder on that. I hate any of that. As much as I hate any diving or simulation, and I think some sort of a retrospective review of games and a pulling of boys that have feigned injury, feigned head injury, there's all of that sort of stuff I hate. And that's maybe the opposite side of the machismo. I think we've lost some of the machismo, some of the rule changes. We've lost on that, and I think the game has degraded a wee bit. So absolutely, I can see aspects of Kevin's point and would fully agree with it. But part of the game that I love, part of the championship, that spirit, that fight, all of that there, you can dress that up whatever way you want. But I think there is an idea of a competitive battle there, and I don't see how or why you would want to remove that from the game.
I think, in fairness to him, the point that he's making is that it's the stuff, it is the off the ball stuff, it's the unnecessary violence that gets meted out off the ball, where, you know, somebody walks up to somebody and gets a punch instead of a handshake at the start. The rules of the game are actually, I know we criticise the lack of definition of the tackle, but the rules of the game allow a lot of physical contact, and that's why I think the sport is on the verge of a massive breakout over the next couple of years, because the defensive focus on the game has shifted. Teams are learning to attack more. We're not going to have one superpower dominating. We might have a championship structure that's fit for purpose. Every team might start the season with something that they're ready to win. It is those few bits that are left in the game where an elbow gets left in a tackle or a knee gets slid into a head. That's clearly, you know, we all know that it's semi on purpose and you get away with it because of the rough and tumble. That it's those bits, it's the nastiness as opposed to the manliness, and it's where that bit, it's that grey area that exists that the sport kind of seems to tolerate. I would argue it's because we tolerate that in real life that as a society we haven't exactly learned to clamp down on street violence. So, you know, our sport is a product of who we are as a country.
No, and I agree with that. And look, yes, that there crap that happens off the ball, I don't see any part of that. I don't see that is in any way proving yourself as a big fella. A lot of the boys that are mouthing in that there, whenever push really comes to shove, I'm not too sure they're putting their hand first in the fire or standing up for the team. Some of the best players I had just weren't involved in that sort of stuff. So yes, the off the ball stuff, if there's anything can be done to clamp that out, absolutely, I would fully agree with you. I think the game is on the verge of a brilliant new era. I think some of the quality of the play, the fitness and the athleticism of the teams, the tactical noose that's now coming into the game, I think it is just sitting in a really healthy place. I would love to clean out some of the rules, the forward mark, the defensive mark, them type of things. I would tidy them up. I would clarify the black card and just let it be for a cynical foul rather than a specific definition of a cynical foul, that it has to be pulled down. Like any foul where you have any foul that's pretty much on purpose, that you have no realistic attempt to play a fair or a legal tackle, then that's a cynical foul as far as I'm concerned. Whether it suits some sort of definition of a ankle or a foot trip or a pull down rather than a push or something like that there. I think that's where we're muddy in the waters. Senegal play is obvious, but equally that off the ball stuff, that physical contest, like if umpires, there's enough men around the pitch, if the umpires or linesmen see a player jostling and use their common sense and know which one's the aggressor. Too often we're at the 2 yellow card thing, where if 2 players are jostling, it ends up in a wrestling match. It's a 2 yellow card scenario. If you've got a star forward and you've got a defender that's in his face the whole time, it is the defender that's doing that. It is not the forward that's in the defender's face. So get the defender booked. If that defender's booked early, marking a star forward, you'll very quickly see that type of thing come out of the game, because it's too high risk for a defender to do that or to be caught doing that. So I think there is steps that could be taken to start tiring that out. Anything that could do that, brilliant. And then the other thing that needs to happen in the John Small tackle, obviously, has brought it full into the limelight, is that rugby type approach where, because of the sheer physicality of our players now and the impacts that can be involved in our games, there needs to be training of players that they're responsible for their body. So whenever they're going into contact, they have to, the safety of their opponent has to be first and foremost. And if they can't guarantee that, they have to adjust their tackling accordingly and take in that rugby type scenario, that an accidental heavy hit, like I don't believe John Small he just went to make a really good hit. The opportunity was there. He went for it, missed time, missed it, and a really bad injury ensued. But in rugby, that would be a red card almost, because he, out of lack of control of his body, he caused the injury to the opponent. And I think because of the strength of our players now and the power involved in them hits, I think, but there's a whole level of training needs to come into that because that's a whole new approach.
So can Tyrone get David Clifford sent off again this weekend then?
I don't know, but certainly you'll be wanting to keep them quiet. But again, look, as to this weekend and all of them things, like, this is a battle for Tyrone. There is no point them heading out to be a nice team. Nice teams don't win anything. Like, that's always was kind of Peter's main mantra to us as young boys coming through, because he had been through them years too, that nice boys just didn't win anything. And him, probably from the abuse that he received over the years, he developed that hard and he hammered it down our throats time and time again. Nice boys don't win anything. So it's okay for us all outside the game to speculate and pontificate, if you want, about how the game should be played, or it should be entertaining, or it should be this lovely sportsmanship. The boys on the pitch have to play within the rules of the game, and whatever bendiness is within those rules, whatever flexibility is within those rules, whatever the referees allow on a given day, you play to that and you try and get the result. You try to win, and whatever it takes to win, you do that. And I think everybody, all supporters, all other teams, that's what you expect from your opponent. And I don't think Tyrone will be shy in that regard this weekend.
And brilliant stuff. Always great to talk to you. Thanks a million.
All the best, Chair.
It's Enda McGinley giving us some very interesting thoughts there about the game this weekend. Are you getting a bit nervous now? Haven't heard that?
Yeah, well, how could he not be?
I mean, come on. I was like,
could he not be after listening to that?
Oh yeah, he is playing really well. That's a good point. Actually, they're all excellent points.
Have the odds moved in yet?
Not yet, but by the end of the show,
Mr. Gilroy has put his house and entire family on Tyrone.
Into the middle. 8:37 this morning here. If you want to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. We have a clip for you here from this week's edition of the Football Pod. It's episode 16. The Football Pod with Paddy and Andy, riding high in the charts. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you rate, make sure you tell your mates about this. It is absolutely brilliant, and it's basically doubled its listenership since the very start of the season, and that's only going to continue to grow over the next couple of weeks. It's available on the OTB Sports app now exclusively, so get the OTB Sports app. That's your first listen. Turn on your notifications, and every time a new episode lands, we will ping you a little note for it, and you can just hit the button. You don't even have to do anything else. Just hit the button and it'll come on your earballs. So go download the OTB Sports app for free right now from your app store. This week, Paddy and Andy are split on how they think Tyrone can take down Kerry. Here's Andy Moran and why Tyrone need to really have a go from the start.
Dewar and Logan have a chance here they've won the Ulster title. They've exceeded nearly expectations in Europe. They've done absolutely brilliant. As Paddy said in an earlier pod, the players now believe in them, because once you start winning, all of a sudden they could get. Now they could. How can we see how we can damage Kerry moving forward? Because if they don't win the All-Ireland this year, they'll have to win the All-Ireland next year. They'll have to play Dublin or Kerry again. So how can we damage them? Where can we get worry into them? And to me, it's up top. It's in the middle of the field. It's their kick out off Morgan.
Yeah.
Like if Morgan goes short with a kick out, he's a madman. You have to get the Kerry midfield out. Like if you think about the Kerry halfback line, Breen, Murphy, Gavin White, right? You've McKenna, like you put up the tweet during the week. McKenna's eyes with Donnelly is there. McKenna's a half a foot taller than them boys. Joe with a leap on him. Do you know, Matty Donnelly coming out the full forward. Like I can see the Michael Murphy, Ryan McHugh move against Dublin in 2014 here. Like over the press, kick to the weakness, where the weakness is in the Kerry backline, and let's see what they're made of. And they're the little areas where, and instead of going short, I'd nearly be going long for Tyrone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
100%.
If you see McShane, if you see Matty Donnelly in there with Darren McCurry coming on.
Richie Donnelly is back, yeah.
Yeah, and take a chance. I can't see with a real, like even them great teams that Logan and Dewar were part of.
Yeah.
Like people measure them on the defence. Tyrone was never built on defence. Tyrone was built on Peter Canavan, Sean Kavanagh, Jared Kavlin even, Stephen O'Neill, Owen Mulligan, Brian Dewar. There were Brian McGuigan, one of the best players that ever played the game. Right? Like great players who were forward. Yes, they tackle like lunatics and they put heat on you like you've never seen before, and they're exceptional defenders behind them. But for Tyrone to have a real chance here, I genuinely believe it's in the top division where they could do real damage against Kerry. I don't think it should be a shootout. I agree with Paddy in terms of they can't let it be a shootout because they won't score enough. But they have to have some element of risk where they're playing maybe with one sweeper, him coming in off the weak side like we described about Keane Sullivan before from Dublin, and have some sort of plan where they protect, but they have to have the element of going and really pushing on as well.
Right. Difference of opinion in how Tyrone should go about beating Kerry. Owen, I can tell that you're worried. We're like, you know, all week we're like, look, sure, what's the point? We're actually basically previewing the Mayo Kerry All-Ireland final. I know people who are booking guests for an All-Ireland final preview show.
Really?
Which is Mayo against Kerry.
I'm not that person.
No, it's not you.
I wonder if it's the Mayo side of things.
It's nobody in the building, right? But I've seen people like, hey, look, it's going to be Mayo against Kerry. Can you? And I was like, what is it? Is that? Did I miss the game this weekend? I mean, maybe we did. Maybe we should just be talking about Mayo Kerry.
I do remember there was actually kind of a similar feeling maybe before the 2019 semi-final between Tyrone and Kerry. I'm trying to think who Tyrone had beaten in the previous round, but there was a real feeling that Kerry were on an amazing run after hammering Mayo and Killarney and going through the rest of the Super 8s. Like they'd done okay against Donegal in Croke Park, and there was a feeling that actually Mayo and Donegal are better teams than Tyrone, and they'd done well against them, and they should beat Tyrone, and everybody was previewing the Kerry Dublin final. And at half-time, it was just kind of like, oh God, they've done it again to Kerry. Fortunately, Kerry pulled through in the second half with a brilliant performance. But I reckon there could be a few people who won't realise what this game is going to be until the game has actually started, and all of a sudden you get to the first water break and you're like, this thing has not represented the 7-1 on side that are supposedly playing in this game. I think that's definitely a possibility. I do think that there are the phrase waiting in the long grass has become the cliche of the week because that's what everybody feels Tyrone are doing. But is there a feeling that Kerry are potentially waiting in the long grass as well? I think that there's been a couple of different factors that have maybe been overlooked over the last little while. First off is Kerry's injury list, which had been slowly getting a little bit concerning. Like, first of all, David Clifford had a bit of discomfort when he scored that goal against Clare. Hadn't looked the same man then in the second two games, really, in the Munster Championship. An extra few weeks, I think, is actually going to benefit him. Diarmuid O'Connor got injured in the last game, who'd been in brilliant form. This gives him an extra little bit of time to get back. And the most important person is Darragh Moynihan, who was one of Kerry's best players after the league. And everybody seems to have totally forgotten about because Paddy Clifford's been so good and Sean O'Shea's been so good since then that I'd heard that he was going to be out for the season. But the thing is that the season is now 4 weeks longer. And I wonder, is he going to be back this weekend? Peter Keane said 2 weeks ago that they've got a clean bill of health. Like, I don't know, do we take that with a pinch of salt or not? Like, the truth is we won't have any idea who's fit or not until the teams actually line up for the anthem on Saturday afternoon. But Kerry have really benefited from having a few extra weeks as well. Tyrone have obviously benefited more. But if we're analysing this thing honestly, like, there is no excuses for Kerry this weekend if they do get beaten. And I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but there really are no excuses.
All right. OTB Sports, in association with Cadbury FC and their club partnerships, are returning for another series of in-depth chats with some of the biggest names in Premier League and Irish football history. With access to all areas, we chat to some of the legendary names from the big clubs and meet the crucial people behind the scenes who make a Premier League club what it is. First up, Champions League and Premier League winners Roberto Di Matteo and Karen Carney will join us for our Access All Areas Chelsea special with coach Lisa Fallon, coming to OTB Sports social channels soon. So Roberto Di Matteo, obviously scorer of that amazing early goal in an FA Cup final, and famously a very important, short-lived but brilliant manager for Chelsea, certainly in terms of the success. He's right up there with literally anybody else who's ever been in the club. So stay tuned to our social channels and we'll give you more details on our upcoming shows in association with Cadbury FC. Very quickly, I'm going to run you through the sports pages. I'm going to speak with James Lowe in just a moment. I just woke up and suddenly I could dunk. We were talking about this earlier. Aidan Egion talking about going to America as a teenager essentially, and realising that they're all dunking. I can do that too, and his career has taken off ever since then. Rangers hit with COVID outbreak ahead of Old Firm in Europa playoff, and Real Madrid have lodged the club record bid for Kylian Mbappe. The news this morning is Paris Saint-Germain saying no, not that much, maybe a little bit more, and we'll give it to you. Very quickly, some of the other newspaper headlines for you. The Irish Independent, Wigan warning to clubs over penalties for McLean abuse. If clubs fans give James McLean abuse, then there will be penalties for it. Wigan have warned their other clubs around that. And Jack O'Connor will remain Kildare manager for 2022 season, so that looks like it's confirmed. The Herald, exactly the same headlines as the Indo this morning. The London Times is provoke us at your peril, says Colley. This is the Ashes, I think, is it? Real's 137 million sterling bid for Mbappe rejected as City snub Ronaldo. So the transfer merry-go-round is set for some big pieces to fall over the next few days. We'll talk about that in Deal or No Deal a little bit later on. Clubs will not release players for matches on the UK's red list. This is the clubs at war with FIFA at the moment. The Irish Daily Mail, FIFA ban fear. Premier clubs risk losing stars if not released. And bulked up Kingdom have developed a defence to be reckoned with. That's the Gaelic Games preview in the Mail. The phrase "the long grass" that Owen was talking about is very much on display in Martin Brownie's pieces today. Pull us out of the mire. This is Arteta calling on the big guns. So it looks like they're going to pick Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Lacazette for the Carabao Cup tonight. You know, it's a real list of where their priorities are. Real miss 160 million Kyle shot. Red list, red card. That's what they're saying in the back of the Mirror. Barred is the headline on the Sun. Prem tell FIFA, you can't have our stars for World Cup ties. And FIFA say back, well then you can't have them either. So tit for tat, I believe they're calling that. And then this is a very interesting piece in the Examiner today. Message in a bottle. Vaccines may hold key to completion of GAA club championships. Essentially, club GAA teams need to get vaccinated. Otherwise, the close contacts will become a massive issue for them. And Kerry deserve more credit. Starting in the kingdom, says Dara O'Shea. Because they're too hard on yourselves, basically.
Like, I mean,
TLDR, too hard on ourselves.
Like when you go in for a job interview and they ask, what's your biggest weakness? And it's like, you know, my standards are just too high. That's what he means.
0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. Now, we're joined right now by Ireland and Leinster winger James Lowe, who's teamed up with Rugby Players Ireland, Zurich and the Z Zurich Foundation to invite post-primary schools to take part in the 2021-2022 Tackle Your Feelings Schools Mental Wellbeing Programme as part of the hashtag I'm Taking Control campaign. The Tackle Your Feelings Schools programme is a classroom-based, teacher-led life skills development programme which enables students to build healthy habits and personal coping strategies, as well as kindness and understanding when it comes to mental health and well-being. James, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
How are these campaigns like for you to get involved in? Is mental health something that you were always aware of and minding your own mental health as someone coming through as a rugby professional, or is it actually later in life you start to look back and go, geez, I could have been a bit nicer to myself as a teenager?
No. I had no idea when you were asking me in terms of mental health growing up. I had no understanding of what it actually meant, and to be able to now, you know, put a platform together and help kids who are now, you know, going back to school after a very disruptive year, and you know, if we can help in any way, shape or form that we can, that's what we're here for.
Have you got better at it then as your career has gone on at compartmentalising?
100%, yeah, for sure. You know, I was never always the way I am today. You know, when I first became a professional athlete at the age of 19, I made my debut for Tasman back in New Zealand, and I was a very big critic of myself, especially when I didn't play well. And if I did play well, I'd be looking for praise as well. So, I'd be reading the headlines and reading what other people were saying about me. And it took me, the good guts of 3 to 4 years, that sort of evolution of understanding that, people's opinions really, really don't matter. The only thing that you can do is control, like, your Monday to Friday to make sure you perform on a Saturday. And that's, I guess, the byproduct of what people say is how you perform. So if you can get on top of your performances, they'll say what they want to say. People always try to tear you down. But look, this is an awesome campaign and something I'm proud to be a part of.
Ironically, it's the further you get in your career, the more access you have to people who can help you with that stuff. When actually, it's really at 16, 17, 18, you need to learn these skills. It's when you reach the Ireland setup that actually you've got a sports psychologist on tap, or maybe you reach Leinster, you've got access to that kind of stuff. By which stage, I'm not saying you've perfected it, but you've certainly come through some of the maturity.
100%. Like you tell me at 16, 17, that you were open and transparent about how you're actually feeling about, relationships with your parents and kids at school, and how it actually affects you when things like that get on top. And then, add schoolwork, add trying to perform in terms of sports. It's a melting pot of trouble in a lot of ways. And, to be able to support a campaign that can front foot a lot of the problems that kids and students are going through, that's it's something I want to help out with.
James, you mentioned there that there was a point in your career when you stopped listening to the critics and you started to focus on what you were doing Monday to Friday. Was there a particular moment that changed for you?
So I had access to a mental skills coach, from about 21 years of age. And before that, I was always very, I had a lot of luck go my way early on in my career, where the teams that I was fortunate enough to play with, they were having players in my position leave, or it was the start of a season and someone would break a hand and all of a sudden I was thrown into the deep end. And to be fair, I was able to perform, but there was still something that I couldn't get on top of. And a lot of it was relationships with probably teammates more than anything. I felt like I was good enough, but I never really had their trust. Their trust that I was always going to be there when they needed me, trust off the field. And I went and caught up with a fella called David Galbraith. So he works with New Zealand High Performance Sport. And he asked me what do you do Monday to Friday for other people? What do you do before a game? What are your goals? And we really stripped it all back into being, a good person by the end of the day. And I felt like from then my relationships on and off the field with people that I needed to trust grew exponentially. And the byproduct of that was I became what I felt was a lot better player. So he literally told me, you got to stop putting so much pressure on yourself to perform. You got to stop having these goals and targets and things that you want to meet, because that there was always at the forefront of my mind. It's not, catch, pass, kick, run over someone. It was, I had other things in my head going on. And mate, when you break any sport down, it comes back to the basics, the things that you learn when you're 5, 6 years old. So he was an amazing help for me early on in my career.
And are you still leaning on those now?
100%. Yeah. Actually, he had a book. He's a great man, David Galbraith, and we message each other still, and he's on the other side of the world. And he's got a book, and it's like a non-profit. He actually paid for absolutely everything, and took none of the profits. He gave it back to charity. And I still lean on those. They were quite emotional sessions and quite vulnerable sessions to have with him in his office. But leaving those, you broke down so many barriers in your head, because half of it's the battle in your head. That's the most intimidating thing, and accepting, sometimes when you're wrong or when you actually need help, because it's not a bad thing to ask for help. But bringing it back to the schools campaign, at 16 years old, I wasn't asking for help. I thought I was Superman. Like, you know, I had everything sorted.
Like it's a really healthy culture then that existed in New Zealand. Do you think that that culture is the same? Is it a little bit different when you moved to Ireland?
I would say it was different, but there's a whole load of things as to why it was different, and it's not different in a bad way. I find coming to Ireland, especially coming to Dublin and playing for Leinster, you know, 95% of the people who play in Leinster, I'm talking like 40 out of the squad of 45, their whole family is still, like, they're from Dublin, so they already have such a connection to the place. They've got such a great support structure around them, and I'm not saying that they haven't gone through the exact same process that I've potentially gone through. They've probably gone through a different down a different avenue of seeking help, and you know, at the end of the day, the quicker you can get on top of your mental well-being, your mental health, and being able to actually talk and have vulnerable conversations, I find, you know, rugby becomes a lot easier.
How is your own form heading into the new season? And like, because you know, it was a really interesting Six Nations campaign from your perspective, getting straight in the team and then coming out of the team for a bit. So obviously, from a professional perspective, that might feel like a bit of a setback. But at the same time, you're very close to that team at the moment, and you must feel like a bit of form and consistency over the next 12 months is going to get you into that team if you can unleash your full potential.
Yeah, 100%. I think you've hit the nail on the head there for sure. Like, this is coming from, like, I feel like it'll be my own fault if I'm not there, you know, and that's not saying, you know, you can take that any way you want, but I feel like I have everything there. It's about putting in performances consistently to make sure that, you know, when they talk about, you know, the number 11 jumper, that I'm the name on the top of the list. So for me, it's like, obviously my defense was the one thing that was letting me down. I'd do so many good things, and then, you know, I wouldn't be there when, you know, I didn't whack someone when I needed to whack someone, pretty much. So that there has been at the forefront of my mind for a lot of the time. And, you know, I've put a lot of hours in to try and perfect the craft, and it's something that's always evolving, especially how the game is progressing. So no, I feel like I've made leaps and bounds. Sometimes you need to get whacked on the nose to really realise, you know, we need to get on top of this. And I feel like I've done, like I said, hours upon hours with different people, just perfecting and understanding and seeing things unfold to make a better decision quicker. And I'm excited to really get into rugby because, you know, there's unfortunately some people at training I've been able to pick them out a few times and got a couple of good shoulders on. So, mate, I'm looking forward to the rugby season because that's where you get to really express yourself, and you know, that's what I'm all about.
Well, we wish you the very best with that, James. Thanks a million for making the time to talk to us this morning. And it's interesting that the process that we talked about at the start is the same process that you're still using. It seems like different mental health versus defence, but it's the same kind of, you bring the application of the analysis and the thought and the honesty to the whole thing.
Oh, 100%. That's it with everything in life, mate. Like, it's just that I play sport and I figured it out through sport, but you could apply it to absolutely anything. If you're a painter, a gardener, postman, you know, this application can help in all walks of life.
We wish you the very best of luck with the coming season, James. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Thanks. Bye.
James Lowe there chatting to us this morning on OTB AM as part of the Rugby Players Ireland and Zurich Tackle Your Feelings mental wellbeing programme and their new #I'mTakingControl campaign. Here's what we got on OTB Sports Radio for you today. Michael Owen is OTB Gold at 1 o'clock. Mount Rushmore is Donegal. Paul Rouse talking about Offaly 82. OTB Gold is Dennis Ogie Moran. And tonight, OTB AM is live. Before 10, we're going to hear from the Limerick goalkeeper, Nickie Quaid. We're going to chat with Alison Curtis. There's Deal or No Deal. And we're back after these with the latest from the Paralympics with Phil Egan.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Dad Pod.
This is a video thing as well.
Do have a name? Podcast.
Midlife Crisis.
Paddy Daddy.
Midlife Crisis.
Dadcast. That's not bad, actually. Yeah.
There was definitely a period of a couple of months where meltdowns were becoming
more frequent. And now when she's outside and she's sort of playing with the neighbours' kids, like if she doesn't get her own way, the meltdown is quite extreme. So maybe that's the terrible twos, but I think maybe we've escaped the worst of it.
Well, I think the terrible twos is a bit of a misnomer because it goes into the 3s and 4s.
Dadcast, Tuesdays from 3 p.m. on OTB Sports Radio. Tune in on the OTB Sports app.
The Football Pod with Paddy and Andy, our new weekly Gaelic football show with Paddy Andrews and Andy Moran.
The guy from Ballinrobe came down and sat beside me. He said, I'd take the draw, and I said I'd go home. I said, no. I said, this is the time. I said, if we're going to do it, now is the time, and you could sense it. Robbie, I could honestly say, is probably the best teammate I've ever had in my whole career. Like, I know I got caught badly jumping up and down like a fool in the stand. Some of that was for Mayo, but some of that was for Robbie.
Download the OTB Sports app and subscribe to the GAA podcast feed now.
Sean, what's that thing going round the garden?
That is our new Husqvarna Automower.
Automower?
Yeah, it's a robotic lawnmower from Husqvarna. Cuts the grass automatically, has GPS tracking and an app. Even works in the rain. I just thought, why spend time cutting grass when I could spend it with the family?
Great! You can put the dinner on, so...
No can do, love. Have to paint the man cave.
Husqvarna Automower. Never mow again. Learn more at husqvarna.ie.
Right, the Paralympics is underway. We've got our Paralympics report this morning, and every morning, bang on 9 o'clock here on OTB AM. It's all thanks to Toyota Ireland, and the hashtag is Start Your Impossible. Phil.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ger. And we've got some action to look forward to because swimmers Nicole Turner and Roisin Nareen have both qualified for the respective finals on day one in Tokyo. 16-year-old Nareen from Limerick, Ireland's youngest Paralympian at these games, qualified for the final of the S13 100 metres butterfly, and she shaved 3 seconds off her personal best to finish third and qualify for that final. So that final will be at 20 to 12. 19-year-old Nicole Turner from Port Arlington also posted a personal best to qualify for the S6 50 metres freestyle. She finished 5th and will be back in the pool at 10:45. And then it was Barry McClemens, another swimmer who was the first Irish athlete in action. He was in action in very early hours of this morning, and unfortunately just missed out on a place in the final. Only the top 8 qualified. He was 9th, so he's the first reserve for the S9 400 metres freestyle final. And then in cycling, Ross Commons, Rochelle Timothy, I know.
We might just hold you there for a little bit of an issue with your mic. If anybody wants to get in touch with us, by the way, 0879 180 180 is the number. You can WhatsApp us, or of course you can always get us on the YouTube stream. You can leave a comment there. We've got Deal or No Deal coming up in a couple of minutes' time as well. Should be good, are we?
Yeah, we start again?
Go for it, yeah.
We'll start again. Sorry, swimmers Nicole Turner and Roisin Nareen, obviously, as I mentioned, they're both qualified for the respective finals on day one in Tokyo. So 16-year-old Nareen from Limerick, she's Ireland's youngest Paralympian at these games, qualified for the final of the S13 100 metres butterfly. So she shaved 3 seconds off her personal best. She finished third. That final will be at 20 to 12. 19-year-old Nicole Turner from Port Arlington also posted a personal best to qualify for the final of the S6 50 metres freestyle. She finished 5th. That final will be at 10:45. Barry McClemens, another swimmer, he was the first Irish athlete in action today in the very early hours of this morning. Excuse me. He'll be first reserve for the S9 400 metres freestyle final. He posted a personal best in the heats, finished 9th, but only the top 8 qualified for that final. In cycling, Ross Commons, Rochelle Timothy, a guest on OTB AM before, just missed out on a place in the final of the C3 3,000 metres individual pursuit. She'll race again on Friday in the time trial. And in table tennis, Colin Judge from Dublin was beaten 3-1 in his first appearance at the games. He'll be back in action tomorrow, and that match now a must-win after today's game. And a reminder, you're listening to our Paralympic report on OTB AM, coming your way every morning at 9 a.m. And this is all with thanks to Toyota Ireland. Hashtag Start Your Impossible.
The Zone, home of the game changers. They defy odds, logic, reason. They fight convention and bloody the nose of tradition. Stream your boxing your way, anytime, anywhere, only on The Zone. Game changed. Visit DAZN.com.
Get ready for the new season with Now.
The Premier League at its best.
Stream moments of pure magic. Sensational strikes.
It's an absolute stunner.
And unbearable tension.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Stream every live game with the world's best, now half price for 3 months.
Take your seat. You'll be on the edge of it for much of the time.
Offer ends September 5th, 18 plus content stream via internet.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
It is 9:04. We're going to be talking about a new campaign to get mothers back playing GAA. But first, OTB AM, a reminder, of course, is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Time for Deal or No Deal.
I signed for them after the Euros, and after my first day's training, I was driving home. I was actually thinking, regretting it. What have I done? Like I walked into a circus. It's amazing, isn't it?
Right, we're going to have to zip through these. We've got 10 minutes here to talk about one of the biggest stories in the world of sport at the moment. Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, in a tug of love for Kylian Mbappe. What's going to happen here, Phil? On a scale of 1 to 10, Kylian Mbappe to Real Madrid. 10 being he's at Real Madrid, he's a Real Madrid player, 170, 200 million, whatever the fee. What do you think?
I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm going to kind of go under 5.
Right.
So maybe 3 or 4. You can get him for free next year.
But you can get him now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a power play, I suppose, as well. It's Real Madrid saying that PSG, you screwed us over when it came to the Super League. Where were you? You weren't on our side. And also, you look at the lineup that Real Madrid played against Levante the other night, and Gareth Bale is getting back into the team. So yeah, they're not at their strongest. Eden Hazard was in that starting 11 as well. So Mbappe obviously would be a great addition. But in terms of Mbappe, you're looking at why now to join Real Madrid. Obviously, he wants to play for Real Madrid. This is his dream. But why not wait till next year when you've got Messi has joined PSG? You've got a much better chance of winning the Champions League with PSG this season than you would with Real Madrid.
Is there any chance, Phil, that this becomes a massive auction for Kylian Mbappe, or rather clubs auctioning themselves to Kylian Mbappe, I should say, over the course of the next year? Do you think his dreams of joining Real Madrid are actually because he knows that Real Madrid can afford him? Like, what happens if Liverpool show up in Paris at some point over the next few months and they're like, Kylian, we can absolutely make your dreams come true. Come and take a box at Liverpool FC and just see what it's like. Do you think that there's like a wild card that could come out of the left field if Real Madrid don't act over the next few weeks?
Yeah, that's a possibility. You mentioned Liverpool there. I'm not sure Liverpool have the wage structure to get this deal done.
Can I just say on that, right? If you don't get him this year, next year you can give him a giant signing on fee and let the wages be whatever the wage structure is. So instead of giving 100 million to PSG, you give 100 million to Kylian Mbappe and you give him 100 grand a week and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
There's a way around it if you want to do it.
But even that, 100 million, Liverpool don't do that really. They never do. Like the highest they've gone with the likes of Alison and Van Dijk was because it was off the back of the Coutinho deal.
Yeah.
So I think he wants to play for Real Madrid, and it'll be interesting to see how the season goes for Real Madrid. Watching Real Madrid and Barcelona over the weekend, it's quite clear. I mean, it was pretty obvious anyway, they're not what they used to be. And maybe if he doesn't go to Real Madrid this season and Real don't have a good season, is it a harder sell for Real Madrid to get him from PSG? But right now, PSG would be one of the best clubs for him to be at. But
okay.
He's obviously decided he wants out.
How will the trio of Messi, Neymar and Mbappe work?
I'd say they'd work pretty well. I would imagine you're looking at Mbappe and Neymar, and then you've got Messi playing in behind them. Now, I'm not convinced that they're going to win the Champions League, because as good as Messi is, you've seen their downfalls in previous seasons has been in other departments. And also, when things go wrong for PSG, they just lose their discipline. And I don't think too many people are fans of PSG, given for what they stand. And the whole Messi to PSG thing just has left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, because this was a guy that was a Barcelona legend, and you just thought maybe he might go back to Argentina, but he's gone to PSG, and it just wasn't very interesting, was it?
L'Equipe report this morning, Cristiano Ronaldo wants out of Juventus and will push for a move to City in the final week of the window. This is the last season on his contract as well. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it, 10 being that he will be a Manchester City player at the start of September?
Again, I'm low ball on that one. And again, I mean, that's a move you don't really want to see. I know it's not quite going like a former Manchester United player going to Liverpool, which is obviously the bigger rivalry. But still, you're Cristiano Ronaldo, you've played for Manchester United, you're adored by United fans, and then rocking up to Manchester to play for City, yeah, wouldn't be great. But again, could be using this as maybe a brokering a deal somewhere else. Why not go to Sporting? Go back to your home club, who are Portuguese champions now. They're going to play in the Champions League. That would be a more romantic story than Messi going to PSG.
He wants just one more Champions League. Just one more Champions League.
Would that not be a nice way to say, do you know what, Messi, I've outdone you here. I've gone for...
Why not do both? Have a season with somebody who's Champions League winner and then go to Sporting when you're like 38, 39, 40. This guy's going to go on for a while, I think.
I know, yeah.
How would Pep use him? Straight out and out striker, no work to do, we'll create chances, that's it?
You just stay in the box and we'll just get the ball to you. Yeah, I mean, that could work. Obviously, they played with a false 9 last season. I mean, people talk about they haven't replaced Aguero, but Aguero essentially didn't really feature last season. So Ronaldo could definitely do a job. And look, he'd bang in goals, but I just, again, it just worries you where football is going if these are the kind of moves that are happening.
Okay. How likely is Harry Kane to be a Manchester City player by the end of the season on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being...
Again, I don't think that's happened. I just think that the way the football market is at the moment, a lot of these moves are not going to happen. Loan moves, a bit more realistic, but it just seems that Harry Kane, the fact that he came back at the weekend, you know, signed autographs, got pictures taken with the Spurs fans. Now, is that his charm offensive to say, yeah, no hard feelings, but deep down and behind the scenes, they're scrambling to get this deal done before next Tuesday? I don't know, but it looks more and more unlikely.
Harry Kane's going to finish his career at Spurs if he doesn't move this summer. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, well, I suppose it really depends on how Nuno gets on. They've obviously started with 2 wins, but it looks like it's more of the Mourinho type football. It's not great on the eye. So the encouraging thing is they obviously have Paratici in there now, and you know they seem to be able to get deals done. But
yeah,
look, Harry Kane's biggest mistake was that we know his brother brokered that long-term deal. They did a really bad job on it.
Chelsea and Manchester United are being linked with late moves to secure Atletico Madrid's Saul Niguez on loan. What impact will he make if he joins either side? Will he play?
I think he would play, yeah. I think he's a player that neither club need as urgently as other parts of the field. Obviously, I know he plays in midfield. I think United need midfielders, but I'd be looking at a more specialised holding midfielder for United. Say somebody like a Wilfred Ndidi, or even we were watching Brighton the other day, Yves Bissouma, that kind of player that can screen your back four. Niguez can play anywhere in midfield, but United have players like that. I mean, they've got Donny van de Beek, who they're not giving any game time to. In terms of Chelsea, again, he gets into the Chelsea team. Wouldn't be a regular maybe, but they've such a good squad that, he'd be a very welcomed addition. They're effectively putting together 2 really good starting 11s.
Are there not loads of players available on the subs bench at Paris Saint-Germain and also the Italian clubs and also the French clubs? Like, why are we not seeing more fire sales? You know, these clubs are supposed to be completely broke that we've been hearing stories about. Why are we not seeing more cut price deals for some players that you might have expected? I suppose I'm largely thinking about Paris Saint-Germain, but even at Arsenal, there are surely players who have been ruined by the system and bad managers who are actually good value at these clubs that you think could easily do a job at one of the other big clubs.
Yeah, sometimes it's just very hard to shift players because they could be on such a good deal that if the right offer doesn't come, they're not going to go. And you do get the players that just want to get out and they just want to say, I need to play football. But then if you're getting maybe 2 times the amount you get in other places,
yeah,
it's going to be very hard to turn that down. And, you know, if say you mentioned PSG, I wouldn't mind living in Paris, to be honest. So if you're going to give that up, it's got to be a
cold in the winter, though. You know,
cold in the winter.
Rains a lot.
Do you know what? They've lovely heaters outside. If you want to sit outside the Parisian cafe and have a coffee.
This is true. There's always the Mediterranean lifestyle. I always thought like playing for Nice would be pretty good. Playing for
as long as you're not in with the ultras.
Yeah, you probably don't. You know, you've got your own gated community, living in Monaco, essentially not paying any tax. Yesterday, Arteta was reported to have 5 matches to get Arsenal's season back on track, with Conte being the number 1 candidate to replace him. What is wrong with Arsenal? They're not just getting Antonio Conte now.
Because they've obviously started this project with Mikel Arteta. The unknown is, because he's a first-time manager, we don't know if he's going to turn this around. But I think there's been a bit of an overreaction to... They lost to Chelsea. Arsenal, they might have beaten them twice last season in the league. Doesn't matter. They were behind closed doors. Proper games this season. Chelsea signed Lukaku, he scores in his debut. They're playing Man City at the weekend. Are they games that Arsenal are ever going to win? No. Like Chelsea could go to Anfield this weekend and win, and everyone's saying, yeah, Chelsea are going to win the league this season. People still think, even if they don't win at Anfield this season or this weekend, that they're going to win the league. So, okay, they had a poor game against Brentford. That wasn't the easiest fixture to start off with, a team coming up from the Championship, full house, first game, giddiness around the Brentford Stadium, and Arsenal missing players as well because of COVID. So 5 games, we'll see what he's made of. Really, like, big game tonight. Like, the second round of the League Cup, the fact that they're in it tells you everything about Arsenal, because the only reason they're in it is because they're not in European football for the first time since the mid-90s. But West Brom have started with 3 wins and a draw in the Championship and look very much like a team that'll be challenging to get back to the Premier League. So they're going to fancy their chances. And yeah, if we're having this conversation tomorrow morning after West Brom beat Arsenal, then the pressure is cranked up big time on Arteta. If you get Conte in, you know what he's about. There's certain Arsenal players probably do need a right kick up the backside. He's the player or the manager that would do it. It would be short term, but he could turn around the fortunes so much that it's easier to attract the next manager, because you've got Arsenal back to near the top table.
So a Conte team would be a good team, worth watching and successful.
Well, I mean, look what he's done to Inter. He went in and he won the title. He's obviously gone now. It'll be interesting to see how they fare without him. Obviously, they've lost a few players, but the way he came in and got the job done with Chelsea as well. Better squads, those Inter squads and Chelsea squads, but certainly, like with Arsenal this season, they have to be finishing top 6.
Okay, that's not going to happen though, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
with Arteta, if Arteta stays, you think they can finish top 6?
Let's see. I mean, I think the top 4 stays as it is, and then you're looking at...
It turns out West Ham are really good.
Yeah,
Leicester, West Ham.
Let's see how West Ham get on when the European football kicks in, and that squad that they have. And Antonio, as good as he is injury prone. He gets muscle injuries, he gets hamstring problems. So let's see how West Ham get on. Leicester, obviously beaten by them the other night. Let's see how they get on as well.
Okay. Who has been the Premier League signing of the window so far, based on the massive overreaction of 2 fixtures? What are we saying?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm probably thinking, just for his goal at the weekend, let's say Danny Ings.
Right.
Because he's played played 2 games, he scored 2 goals. And there was talk of him getting a move to he wanted top 6. He was talking about one of the Manchester clubs maybe being a fringe player, but we know he's going to play regularly at Aston Villa, and he's up and running already, and that was an unbelievable goal.
It was a pretty good goal. It was a performance from Villa that was like, actually, Villa aren't going to be entirely flaky and lose against Newcastle. I mean, they were pretty flaky on the opening day of the season, but I forgive the opening day of the season. And Douglas Luiz was back at the team. They look much better. I'm relatively confident of them now being a mid-table side.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the stats are there that they fare a lot better with Jack Grealish in the team. He's gone now, so they have to just get on with it. But it was important that they got that win. And as I said, the fact that Ings is scoring goals, if they keep him fit, he's obviously a lot more clinical than Ollie Watkins. But I'm excited to see...
Can they play together?
Can they play together? We know Watkins is a handful in terms of the movement he gives. He just, at one stage last season, he was basically doing the job of 2 players up front. That's how much energy he gives you up front. So that can only be a good thing for Villa, and probably only a good thing for Danny Ings if if Ollie Watkins is the one doing a lot of the work and Ings will just put the ball in the back of the net.
What is the story with Anwar El Ghazi still taking penalties? Like, as somebody who I tipped as Golden Boot winner at the start of the year, Danny Ings, this is not good.
No.
Well, El Ghazi's he's the penalty taker.
I think Ings should step on up and say, I scored week 1.
He did, but El Ghazi wasn't on the pitch, so that's the only reason. So it's that case of if El Ghazi misses one, then it's over to Ings. But yeah, I know it takes away, you're talking maybe 6-7 goals. Although it looks like it's going to be harder to win penalties this season in the Premier League.
That might actually have an impact on those odds. It's a fair point. Phil, that's this week's, this day's Deal or No Deal. We'll be doing it again later on this week.
I signed for them after the Euros, and after my first day's training, I was driving home. I was actually thinking, regretting it, what have I done? Like I walked into a circus. It's amazing, isn't it?
Michael Buckley says, Enda McGinley's dead right in the black card. Farce of a rule, not sure about the double yellow. He's right, the defenders often are in the face, but as the saying goes, it takes two to tango. So on one hand, Michael is agreeing, and on the other he's saying it takes two to tango. I don't know, I think that generally the forwards, not the instigator, they're responding in kind to the type of stuff that they've been getting. And, you know, that question that you asked at the end, can Tyrone get him sent off again? They've spooked you. You're spooked.
It's the last time that they played was that extremely mucky day in Edendorf when the game was refixed for there because Oma, I think, was unplayable. I look back on it very wistfully now because it was one of the last games before the pandemic hit, kind of wandering around Dungannon early in the morning, going into the pubs that looked like they were closed down but still welcomed us in with open arms. Rain pouring down like Armageddon. I would do anything for those moments back.
Are you drinking like Bass and other drinks that are only available once you cross the border?
No, this was very much kind of a subset of the 26 counties. It was Guinness. Yeah.
John Corkin says, don't rule out Tyrone. They're a bogey team for Kerry. All of a sudden, I'm not ruling out Tyrone. On the back of what we've heard this morning, I'm like, all of a sudden it's. They
aren't though, John. In fairness, like the last 2 big championship games that they played. Last 3 big championship games that they played, Kerry have won. So they were a bogey team for Kerry. And yes, the last meeting, the last meeting in the league, Kerry hammered them, but the last meeting before that in the league, Tyrone obviously won. But I think to make a case that they're a bogey team for Kerry, I'm not sure is that the case. I think there are elements about them that they can become the bogey team once again for Kerry. But formally, I don't think holds that up.
Collie Reynolds says on Andy's point, Tyrone's forwards have come in under the radar, kicked some impressive scores versus Monaghan, should be a good competitive game. They kicked 23 points in an Ulster semi-final against Donegal.
Yeah.
If they're fit.
Yeah.
If they're fit and if COVID hasn't wiped them out, then this game is a 3-4 point game max.
It has been one of the stories, really, how they've responded from that shellacking in Killarney, really. And Eamon Fitzmaurice was saying that he had it on good information that they were galloping through the National Park that morning and had done a gym session that morning. So we have to keep that in mind when we talk about this hammering.
So you think that they threw that game?
They didn't throw the game. Of course they would like to have won it, but it was a league semi-final. The big part of the league was make sure you stay in Division 1. So that last game was actually the least important of the 4 games that Tyrone were going to play, and the same goes for Kerry.
All right. Stephen Kenny James' Ireland squad a little bit later on this morning. Here's Dan McDonnell on one of the major positives for Ireland so far this season, the return to form of Shane Duffy.
Yeah, I have to admit, I didn't see this sort of rejuvenation coming in a Brighton sense. You know, I certainly thought Shane Duffy would make a return somewhere, and that Celtic would be a bit of an aberration. But you did sort of feel that it was done for him at Brighton. And what seems to be coming out from Graham Potter and from Duffy himself is that he really did. And okay, this is the type of thing that people say, but it does sound like it's had a genuine impact that we can see tangibly in that his involvement in games, that he did have a bit of a reckoning with himself in the summer and sort of realised, I need to change some things. He's been vague about what that was, but there's been references to lifestyle changes, so I'm not sure what that necessarily means. But he clearly felt that he needed to approach things in a different way. It was a tough time for him at Celtic. He was away from home. You know, as you mentioned, his dad passed away. He's in a city which, you know, it was a great city, but you're moving there during the lockdown and you maybe don't know too many people and it's not the life you maybe imagined, joining Celtic. And just everything went badly wrong. And it's interesting, Stephen Kenny brought him away for that international break in June and got him that game against Hungary. And I'd say that might have sent him off on a bit of a high into the summer as much as would be possible. And it seems like he's just come back in pre-season in great nick. There was luck involved with this. He wasn't due to play the opening game, and there was a COVID issue affected one of the other players. And he seems that his attitude had got him back into the squad, but it was that circumstances that had got him into the game. But he's played really well in the 2 matches. And all of a sudden, maybe after the first week, you're thinking, yeah, they might want him in the shop window here, and he'll go before the window closes. Whereas now, it seems like on form, it would be mad to let him go.
Yeah, the renaissance of Shane Duffy is one of the stories of the season so far. That's Dan McDonald last night. If you subscribe to the OTB football stream in your podcast, you'll get all of our football podcasts, including the football show from Off the Ball. Now, I'm delighted to welcome Today FM presenter Alison Curtis to OTB AM this morning. We're chatting about Sports Direct's new 3-year sponsorship of the LGFA's Gaelic for Mothers and Others programme. The new deal sees Sports Direct provide support to all 220 Gaelic for Mothers and Others teams across the country, as well as helping grow the fun, non-competitive and social programme even further. And Alison, you've joined our local club, the St. Vincent's.
Yes, St. Vincent's. Yeah, it's great. It's really good. They obviously went for someone super fit for this role of ambassador. But no, it's really lovely. I've only done a few training sessions, and already I can't get over how much fun it is. And it's so inclusive, and it is very much designed for people like, myself, who maybe, you have a young family, you might have put fitness on the back burner for yourself for a little while, you might have kind of forgotten about yourself for a little while because you're just trying to keep your family alive and surviving. So it's aimed at people like me, and it's great. It's really, really good. And
it obviously helps that it's summertime and the weather is relatively okay.
I know, I'm worried about winter.
So tell us about it. How do you actually get involved? What do you do? And the natural competitive instinct is kind of there in all of us. So is there a little bit of competition, or how does it work?
Yeah, no, and I think so. I think the women in St. Vincent's, as I said, I've only met them a few times, but I went up and, did a few kind of training sessions with them. And your instinct, I think, is to be kind of self-conscious if you're not like a professional sports person. So what I did was they kind of they're very kind to me, and they get you in very easily. And you speak to all these women who are exactly the same as you. Like the Sports Direct LGFA did a big study on the percentage of people that were brand new to the game, had never played Gaelic, because it's international as well. And I obviously didn't have Gaelic in Canada growing up. Our captain actually is from Tokyo. So they did this study, and it was 48% of women had never tried it before. So you don't need to be an expert at it. You will learn as you go along. And I think the most important thing that Sports Direct kind of want to get across with this sponsorship is that they want to work in sport into everybody, mom and dad, kids, weekly lives in a healthy, fun way. And I'm the kind of person, I'm sure a lot of people are the same way, that if I'm told you're exercising now, I'll be like, no, I'm not. But if they put me on a pitch or on a court and go for it for an hour and a half, you'll have fun, I'll be like, this is exercising, and I didn't even think of it as exercise.
Yeah, that's the best part about this, isn't it? It's I don't know, certainly, so my kids are training in Vincent's, and it's Mondays and Wednesdays for the girls under 10 team, and I definitely had this overwhelming desire to get out and do this, because there was a nostalgia from my perspective that when I was 16, 17, I would have been the last time I was doing this with any kind of sense of regularity. But you guys are actually getting that fix. It's
absolutely. So for Vincent's, for the mothers and others, it's 9 o'clock on a Monday. And I know you're saying about the nice summer weather, and I hope that when it's raining, I'm going to go out that door. But I think that you're more likely to do it if there is a group of people that are kind of waiting there for you as well. And your background, your skill set, I had a little bit of volleyball in secondary school, so kind of that's okay. But I didn't have any football training or soccer training at all in Canada. It wasn't a thing. Racket sports were kind of more my thing. So that whole side of thing I'm learning as well. And I just think it's about meeting a group of people, staying fit, and certainly during the pandemic, there's a lot of women that maybe moved to new communities or certainly started new jobs and have no normal social networking ways of meeting people. So Mothers and Others is a way to kind of get into the community. If you don't, like us, Jerry, have 1,000 WhatsApp groups with parents from various different classrooms and things like that. It's a way of getting into the community and making a network, definitely.
It's interesting because definitely the sort of recreational element of Gaelic games kind of
disappears after a certain point. If you're not going to take it really seriously after the age of 20, 21, then, you know, good luck to you. You can play five-a-side soccer, but that really is it.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, girls more so than boys, there's a traditional drop-off period of organised or team sports at around 13 or 14. So I think if they see mom or if they see their aunt or their, you know, their older sister or a friend going onto the pitch regularly, they'll be hopefully much more likely to keep at it as well. And for little boys as well. And I know up at St. Vincent's, when I spoke to a lot of the women on the team, they're like, look, I've spent hours on the sidelines cheering on, you know, my partner, my children. It's their time to cheer me on. So there's a lot of that in this as well. And it is a lot of fun, especially for people like me who didn't have a background in Gaelic at all. Like, it is a lot of fun.
I didn't realise there was 220 teams already established. So there was a survey done, as you mentioned some of the stats in it. 90% of current participants feel that Gaelic for mothers and others has improved their mental health. 89% agree that it has empowered them to be a sporting role model within their family. I think that bit, right, the whole 20 by 20 campaign was she can't see it, she can't be it.
Yeah.
That was like, there was one interpretation of that was like, oh, we need Katie Taylor and we need Kelly Harrington. But actually, as you're saying, far more important, you need your ma.
Yeah, you do.
Be doing it. Otherwise, it's like, it's not actually, role models on the TV are not the role models in the house.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue you kind of need both. And that's why I think the Olympics recently were absolutely brilliant, because, you know, men and women's disciplines were on par for coverage. And like, you had a lot of female athletes that people were able to follow and still following, obviously with the Paralympics as well. But I think, yeah, you get on the pitch, you show them what you're doing, and they're going to absolutely, hopefully, ideally be more involved with it themselves as well. And the other part that came out of that study that I was really fascinated by is like 97% of the people asked by the Sports Direct, the LGFA survey, said that it relieves stress. And we all need to relieve stress, especially in the last like 18 months or so. And you guys know yourselves from playing matches, the buzz from it it's so electric, even for the first few minutes that you're on, you know, the pitch, and you forget about other things. You're off the screen, you're not reading news, you're not dealing with household chores. You're not giving out to pick up your socks or do your homework or whatever. You've got that time to yourself and to really just enjoy it and get exercise while you're at it.
It's once a week as well, so it's not a massive commitment, but I guess if there are people who are interested, they could do it more often than that.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. And they've got on the website, the LGFA website, they've got all the clubs that you can find there. And like, as you say, there's 220 of them, so hopefully in your area there'll be definitely somebody you can join up with. And they're really welcoming, and they want us to be doing it. They want people to take part, so it's worth doing. I always say if I can do it, anybody can do it.
How many people are roughly there? And like what, so, you know, once you've got 5 or 6, that's enough to get going. But that kind of gets its own momentum.
It fluxes. So like there was 18 last night, and yeah, like it kind of fluctuates a good bit. And oh no, it's great. And like everyone's so encouraging, because I'm like, okay, if I kick this, it's going what direction? And you know, they're really helpful, and it's good, and you're really buzzing afterwards, definitely.
And the last one is how exhausted are you then afterwards? Because
that's the thing. That's work on the fitness levels. Whatever about the direction of the ball. No, you are, because it's 60 minutes, obviously, the training of running around. So, and that's something too that a lot of moms kind of, we might, go for walks or power walks. And I'm generalizing, obviously, there's a lot of fitter mothers than me out there. But you kind of forget about that kind of the pushing yourself a little bit and kind of getting that fitness level just up another notch.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a point in your life where it gets much more difficult to stop watching TV and to get off the couch. And 9 o'clock in the evening is a kind of very significant danger zone. It's like, I might just eat what's left here.
I'm just going to go on Instagram and grab a cookie.
Yeah, exactly.
But no,
there's
people are waiting for you.
It'd be a shame to leave it.
On a Monday, half a bottle. No, people are waiting for you on the pitch, so you got to go.
Yeah. Okay,
is that point in your life in your 20s by any chance, or is it not?
That was ringing
I was just like, wow, okay, yeah, thanks, Jared. The self-deprecation of the 40-somethings has actually just become a pointed comment at me. I like it.
Very good.
I'm glad you recognise yourself. Okay, so Gaelic for Mothers and Others, your local club, St. Vincent's GA. Are we going to see some of this popping up on social?
Definitely.
Are you documenting this? Is there evidence?
I am. I'm documenting it from the waist up. Yes, I am. So at Alison Today FM, and it's all the sports directs and the LGFA as well. And it's great. Like, it's really, really good. And of course, hopefully next year when restrictions lift, hopefully even more. They've got their provincial blitzes in June and their national blitzes in September. So hopefully see everybody on the pitch.
And are you using this to peer pressure any of the other mothers who, you know, might have...
Not really. I'm using it
class.
to peer pressure my child, actually.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm using it for. But no, I actually, you know, I think I know a lot of women that would like to take part in it. And actually, a good friend has joined up at the same time as me as well. So it's good. It's collective.
I encourage the peer pressure of people. I'm, you know, specifically, I think that it would be very good for all mothers who have kids of a similar age to you, Alison, to get out there on a Monday night and do it at 9 o'clock. Like, what is preventing you from doing this?
Nothing, because you know your partners, your husbands will all look after the children and do the dishes and stuff. So get out the door. We
undertake to do all that stuff and the bedtime reading. All right, Alison, good stuff.
Thank
Wish
you
the very best of luck with that, and thanks very much for joining us this morning. Gaelic for Mothers and Others is the name of the project, and as Alison says, you can get it on her social as well. So that's pretty much all that we have for you for the moment. We've got Nickie Quaid coming up in conversation with Joe in a moment. A reminder: OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. So we'll play out this morning with a brilliant reflection on what happened on the field and in his life generally from one of the best goalkeepers that we've ever seen, in conversation with Joe. Enjoy.
Now you're welcome back. So for more reaction on Limerick's win on Sunday, I'm very happy to welcome a man who is, a mainstay there and has been for some time. Nickie Quaid, All-Ireland winner for the third time in 4 years. Great to have you on. You're very welcome.
Thanks, Joe.
Whereabouts in the world are you at the moment?
I'm in Limerick at the moment, in the city there, just outside King John's Castle. That's just behind me there.
Good man.
It's a nice day.
So blue skies down there, I can see. What's been the vibe over the last couple of days? What have you been up to?
Yeah, it has, yeah. Sure, look, we had just kind of in our own company there the last couple of days, trying to enjoy ourselves and celebrate as best we can. But it's obviously a great achievement. So these kind of things have to be celebrated. So it's nice to be able to spend a bit of time in the boys' company.
And is that low-key enough now, given COVID and everything, or are you getting out to see people? I mean, obviously there's no homecoming.
Yeah, no, it's totally different from, I suppose, 2018, where there was huge homecoming and going around to different clubs with the cup and things for a week and that sort of stuff. So there's none of that at the moment, really. It's just trying to meet and our own little bubble, I suppose, and stick together as best you can, because obviously, look, everyone is still conscious of COVID. Like,
so how does number 3 compare to number 1?
Look, I suppose they're all different in their own way, but they're just extremely satisfying. Like, it's nearly a relief when the final whistle blows. That's kind of what you've been training for and aiming for all year, and when you finally get there, then it's probably a big sense of relief. But when you wake up then yesterday morning and this morning, it's kind of a real sense of satisfaction that you've achieved what you wanted to achieve.
I can imagine. And the manner of the performance as well must add to that satisfaction. Did you have a sense in the hours before the game or the morning of the game that something special was brewing? Did you feel the team were ready to put in a performance that good?
Look, I suppose we did feel we were ready to perform, and I suppose that we were getting incrementally better each game. So look, I suppose we were just trying to concentrate on making sure that we did perform and get the best out of ourselves. And I suppose we were hoping then once we do that it would be enough. Look, that's all we try and do no matter when we go out. Like, it's just to be better today than we were yesterday, that kind of thing. And I suppose like just incrementally trying to improve each day, and that's the goal really. Like, we focus on ourselves really and trying to get a little bit better every day.
I don't know how much you can switch off in goals, probably not very much at all, but there must have been a couple of moments where you thought to yourself, geez, we're cooking here.
To be honest with you, like, not until maybe 73rd minute when you kind of know then, like, look, even if they do get a goal or two, they don't have enough time to get it to pull it back, I suppose. Like in hurling, I've seen leads there, 9-10 points, stuff's been whittled down very, very quick, and like a goal or anything, a big score for one team, the momentum can just change hugely very quickly. Like, so I suppose you're never really sure until that final whistle. But look, I suppose when 73rd minute, I think we had a free on where I don't know what the score was, but I knew at that stage that they just didn't have enough time to pull anything back. Like,
yeah, I have a clip for you. Here's James Skelly. He's talking about you and the goal and your distribution. Just have a listen.
When Limerick get the ball poked out within 7 seconds, so when the ball passes the inline or passes, goes over for a score, whatever, and Nickie gets the ball and he's poked out within 7 seconds, Limerick have a 77% chance of scoring. Just from the puck out. That's the bit. So like when he gets it out within 7 seconds, you have a 77%, well over 2/3 chance of a score coming off your own puck out, which is massive. So when Nickie's in the goals, he's saying, right, there's limited structure in the Cork defence, there's limited kind of organisation across the board. Get the ball out quick, and we're 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 going to get a chance here. From Cork's perspective, they've got to be super tuned. You know, that's from the 15 right the way back. And often more times than not, like Nickie will go to because he's the left side of the goalie, he'll go to his left side and they'll attack on the Hayes side. So how many possessions did you see Hayes get yesterday, or Barry Nash, you know, going up that wing? And like from a Cork perspective, lads, it just takes massive amount of concentration. There was 2 or 3 puck-outs yesterday when Cork were at 2s and 3s, kind of looking around themselves, and the puck-out is gone.
Yeah.
Too late. You're in trouble. If you scored a point straight away, you can't dwell on that and go, that's a lovely point, my name is on the score sheet. You need to be immediately, nearly subconsciously, competently turning and going exactly where you need to be.
So that's James Scahill on OTB AM yesterday. We're talking with Nickie Quaid, who obviously James Scahill was talking about. So does that ring a bell for you? Are you under orders to get that ball out quickly, under 7 seconds if you can?
Look, I suppose you're not under orders, but obviously, like James said there is kind of unstructured play sometimes when you can get the ball out. But it varies, like it depends, I suppose. If when the opposition, or if the ball goes wide, you do get it out that little bit quicker, and that is obviously because the referee, doesn't have to get out his notebook and write down the score and that kind of stuff. So referees do let you go that little bit faster, and obviously it can be a little bit more unstructured at those points in the game. So look, it is obviously a thing, but like Limerick are no different to any other team. Every team looks to try and capitalise on that. And like if you went back through the Cork workouts yesterday, Patrick Collins was doing the exact same thing when the ball was going wide. It's out quick and. It is a little bit unstructured, and you sometimes it works to your advantage. You do have a chance to get a score. Sometimes maybe it's the wrong thing to do, and you might be better off just settling down for taking maybe 20 seconds to take the puck out and settling down. So look, I suppose it varies in the time of the game and just the way the momentum is in the game. But obviously, look, it is a part of it, and but like Limerick are no different to any other team in that regard.
And those moments where you might wait 20 seconds and settle things down, is that just you and your experience and your feel for the game and probably just something innate that you sense?
Yeah, look, maybe it is, but sometimes you'll get a call from someone out the field or something, slow it down, or sometimes you might notice that, maybe one of your half-hour line or your midfielders or something might have been back very close to your own goals, tackling or something, and when you get the ball to look up, they might only be 30 yards from your own goal on the way back up the field. So, you want them to be able to reset and get back into position, because if your half forward is back 40 yards from your own goal and you go take a puck out long, then more than 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a numbers advantage to the opposition in the half back on the other side. So, look, I suppose you have to realise that, but sometimes it doesn't always come from the goalkeeper. It's a lot of it would come from someone who will just take a second here, slow it down a little bit.
The way the game is now, Nickie, I would presume at training and everything else, you probably must spend as much time working on your distribution as you do your shot saving.
Yeah, you would, yeah. Look, I suppose the way the game is, puck-outs is a huge part of it, and you're guaranteed every game, 30 odd puck-outs, probably, that'll be nearly minimum lot more, whereas on some games you mightn't get anything else to do apart from puck out the ball. You mightn't get any balls that would drop in, or you mightn't get any shots to save or anything like that. So it's a part of the game that you're guaranteed to get every day. So I suppose it would be it'd be foolish not to work on it.
And are there pre-planned moves for points where Cork or the opposition, rather than just Cork, are set and they're waiting for your puck out? Do you have little triggers and so and so is going to run that way, another player is going to go that way? That kind of stuff happening in hurling?
Look, I'm sure some teams maybe do have set puck-outs for certain times of the game or different things, but to be honest, we don't. It's based off of the opposition, not the opposition, but I suppose our understanding of maybe where you could target during the game. And in fairness to John, the lads, they let a lot of that up to the players to be able to acknowledge and to realise maybe where we're winning, whether we're winning long or maybe we're after losing a couple long, we might have to go short. And sometimes you get a message in from the sideline that, look, you've lost the last 3 or 4 long puck-outs, we need to maybe work one short, or vice versa. So it's not just I suppose it's a whole squad thing. It's the players realising on the field, and then also you will get some information from the sideline as well. Right,
okay. It's an amazing career you had. So you're with Limerick now, maybe coming up on 10, 11 years. First arrived as an outfield player, and then I think I was reading, was it Kerry who coached you at under 21, started using you in goal, and then when Donald O'Grady came in 2011, he put you back to goal. Were you quite happy to go there? Had you been playing much in goal for your club? How did all this kind of happen? It seems like a strange one. I mean, how did they pick you out to go back and goal?
Look, I don't know. I didn't really. I've only played 1 year in goals for the club, to be honest, when I was younger, kind of breaking through the adult team. But I would have played in goals underage with Limerick and things like that. And I suppose maybe when Kieran came in, he just saw maybe that I was better suited. And then look, when Donald Grady asked me to go back in, I presume it was probably through Kieran. Kieran was the selector at the time, and like Donald Grady would have never seen me really playing in goals when he was coming from Cork. So it was probably through Kieran really that asked me. And look, when it was put to me, talked to a few people and kind of, because I hadn't played in goals maybe for a year or two, and just got their opinion on it. And I suppose they said, like, I was happy to try it. I suppose the way I looked at it was they probably weren't really looking at me seriously for an off-field player. So if this was my chance to get on the panel, I was going to give it everything. And no, thankfully it's all okay in the end.
Jeez, hasn't it just? And would you have felt at the time that you were a better outfield player than you were a goalkeeper?
Geez, look, I don't know. I don't think I would have made it out the field. To be honest with you, I just don't think I would have had the legs for it. I don't think I would have made it out the field. So look, I'm happy with the way it worked out in goals. And look, like when I was young, I just wanted to put on a Limerick jersey. That was your dream. So to get the chance to do it, whether it's outfield or in goals or any kind of way to join a panel, I was just delighted to do it.
You're 32 years age, so you're the old man of this team. It's I think the oldest outfield player is 28, and then the rest of them are all kids.
Yeah. I made my senior debut. Kyle Hayes and Peter Casey played in the Premier game, so it's
what's been the big difference, would you say, Nickie? So you joined when Limerick, the senior team was at a low ebb, and there was a bit of strife, and then that got sorted out, and the county is built, I suppose, towards the last couple of years. What's the big difference in the general day-to-day working of a team, like now when things are really humming and going well, versus, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago when you're not at All-Ireland winning level?
It's hard to put it. Look, I suppose a lot of it is down to the academy that was set up in Limerick and the calibre of players that have been coming through because of that, because of the good coaching, things like that. And then you have, I suppose, John and his management team have to take huge credit. They have an unbelievable, I suppose, management group behind him, and it's just brilliant to what they've done for us. It's hard to describe it, just maybe the confidence that they have put into us, and then obviously the level of coaching, the level of professionals that they bring to it. It's just brought things on a new level, and I suppose everyone has got really close and a great bunch of friends. And like, I know it's a cliche and you hear it the whole time, but we are a really, really tight group, and that does really help.
Paul Kinnerk seems to be an extraordinary brain as well in there, and we've seen with his tactics board at the water breaks. Give us a sense of some of the things he brings to the equation, because it does seem like he thinks about the game a little bit differently to a lot of people.
He's without shadow of a doubt the best coach I've ever worked under. He's a genius, really. It's hard to describe what he does, but look, I suppose the biggest thing I find is that you'll be going into games, you're always very nervous and different things like that, and Paul would just speak, and when you just listen to him speaking, you just kind of grow in confidence, and you go, yeah, Jesus, yeah, what he's after saying there is, yeah, that's true, and that would probably happen. And he just kind of can give that, he can set that off to the players. And look, he puts these training sessions extremely difficult in there. The intensity levels are very high, and I suppose he exposes us to a lot of things that would happen at game time, and that's I suppose where he's got us today.
So when you say he'll predict things in a game, because that's quite interesting, I suppose. So he might say that player there is going to get drawn out here, so if we've a runner in there and you pop it in, you'll find space. Those kind of little moments, is it?
He's not really predicting things, I suppose. He doesn't really focus on the opposition too much either, I suppose. He knows that what we can get out of ourselves, and he just, I suppose, tries to instill that in us, that if we can do what he wants us to do and hit the numbers and the targets that we're looking to do, that we will, I suppose, hopefully that'll be enough to get by some teams. And look, like, I'm sure there's obviously different coaches all over the country that are teams that are doing the exact same thing. Look, I suppose that's their role, and that's what they have to do to try and prepare the team as best they can, which Paul can. He does.
Yeah. So for the Quaid family, it's a remarkable day. We had a picture up there, I don't know if you could see it, but anyone watching could, of you and, is it little Dahi?
Yeah, my little son Dahi, yeah. He's just over 6 months, about 6.5 months at the moment, yeah. That's great memory. He
doesn't look that impressed, to be honest with you. He's bored, frankly, is what I can say with your performance. He's taking it in his stride.
I think he missed his nap during the game. He was a bit tired, I think.
That must be an unbelievable moment to walk around the pitch with your 6-month-old son.
It is, yeah. It's surreal. Look, I suppose you've seen down through the years, different players, their children out in the field after matches, and it's a magical feeling, really. It's something that I'll obviously treasure for the rest of my life, and there's memories and things like that can never be taken away from me. It's magic.
Is he your first, Nickie?
Yeah. So he was born in January, yeah. So it was, I suppose, look, he came at a good time in terms of we were on lockdown and there wasn't much training going on. So I was, the sleepless nights weren't affecting me training-wise too much.
And like for the Quaid family, it's just extraordinary. I think it gets mentioned, I'd say, once a game. Whenever you make a great save, the co-commentator will say, geez, and the Quaid family and Limerick hurling, it's just unbelievable. So for people maybe not fully aware of all the details, your father, Tommy, was an All-Ireland runner-up. That was in 1980 with Limerick. Your grandfather, Jack, he won a Munster medal, I have it, in 1955. And then your cousin Joe, of course, Joe Quaid, was the goalkeeper in the All-Ireland finals in 94 and 96. Like, it was never in doubt you were going to be a goalkeeper, by the way. But that's an extraordinary kind of legacy, the Quaid family. And then you and Dahi strolling around yesterday. That's kind of magic, I presume, for your mum and for everyone.
Yeah, it is. Look, it's very nice. Obviously, it's nice to have those memories of Joe and my father and my grandfather, things like that, playing. I suppose my grandfather passed away there in the start this year in February, and it was he was luckily to see it in 2018 and last year 2020, but it was a bit different. So I suppose it's the first All-Ireland I've won that he hasn't been there, and obviously should be thinking about those people at the time. But look, I'm no different to any other family. We've all lost people, and we've all there's our team, I suppose, at the moment has huge links to past Limerick players, which is great. Sean Finn and his and Garrod and his father, Keane and Kieran, and there's so many others that I'm forgetting at the moment, but there's so many links to past Limerick players, which is great, really. Yeah,
I didn't realise that about your grandfather. Condolences. So that was February of this year, and he won a Munster championship back in 55.
Yeah, so he would have been playing on that team. They were Mackey's Greyhounds. They were kind of known as himself and his twin brother Jim. Yeah, so they both passed away this year, only a month in the difference between the two of them. But look, they lived a great life, long, great life, and I'm sure they were delighted looking down on us there on Sunday.
I know your father went far too young at 41 years of age. That was back in 98 now. I think you were about 9 at the time. Would you have strong memories of watching him play, Nickie?
No, to be honest, I just a few videos and a few pictures and stuff going around in his late days, I suppose, when I was only 1 or 2 years of age. But look, I wouldn't have huge memories of him actually playing. I would have a couple of memories of him playing with the club before he passed away when I was a little bit older, but not obviously of him playing. But look, you hear all the stories, and all people have always lovely words to say about him and things like that, which is very nice.
Yeah. Do you let? I mean, we were talking with Paul Murphy actually of Kilkenny a while back, and his father had passed away when he was maybe 15, 16, and he was saying, in the build-up to big matches, that he wouldn't necessarily kind of channel his father or try and do it for his father, because he almost didn't want to get too emotional. He had enough on his plate. What's your relationship, I suppose, with thinking about your father on something like All-Ireland final week, and it's such a hurling family? Do you spend much time thinking about him on those weeks, or try and keep that a bit at bay? What's your approach?
You would try and keep it a little at bay, but I suppose it's probably part of my routine. I'll always visit his grave the morning of each match, and it does. Look, I suppose you'll say a few prayers, and you'll ask him to help and to get you through the day as best you can, and that's just, I suppose, it's part of my routine for the last 10 years. So it's. Well, look, I wouldn't dwell in it huge amounts because like that, we try and keep emotion out of the game for so much that you just don't want it to, I suppose, to come in. But look at the final whistle, especially in 2018 when the final whistle went, that was very emotional, I suppose, when Limerick had tried so hard for so long to get there, and knowing that he had played and failed for so long, he played and didn't get there. To be able to do it was obviously very, very nice.
I can imagine, yeah. And does your mum, I think her name's Breda, does she go to the games?
She does, yeah, she does. My mum is actually a Kilkenny woman, Grace, her mate, so she's well steeped in hurling as well. So she does go to the games, yeah. And look, she's obviously very proud and delighted to have someone, I suppose, involved with Limerick hurling at the moment. But look, she's steeped in the club at the home. She's out selling a lot of tickets every night of the week and doing things at the club. So look, I suppose it's been part of our family from both sides. That's all we've ever known, really. It's a huge part of our family, so I suppose it's just continued on.
Yeah, God, it's
So my battery's very low, Joe, so just in case it goes, that's the problem.
Oh, no bother. Right, well then listen, I won't keep you too long. I'm sure you're getting lots of calls, so everyone's been on to you, I presume. That's why the phone's going low at 5 o'clock in the evening.
Maybe. There's a good few people haven't replied yet now.
I can imagine. Well, listen, I won't keep you much longer then. What about you then at 32? Reflexes like a cat. Are you going to keep going for another 10 years?
I would say reflexes like a cat now, but look, at the moment I'm just going to enjoy this. I'm not thinking about anything really down the line or anything like that. It's only going to take it moment by moment, and we'll enjoy this win in the next couple of weeks and get back to the club championship in 2 weeks' time, and hopefully see how that goes for us, and we'll reassess the whole situation then again next year when hopefully John gets the ball.
Good man. Are you with the team now for this afternoon, or are you at home looking after Dahi and changing nappies?
I was with Dahi this morning, so I got the green light to come in and meet the lads there for a while. So I'm here with the boys for a while anyway.
Oh, good man. Well, listen, you're a gent for taking the call then. Appreciate that. Nickie, Quaid, congrats. I mean, what a team and what a performance at the weekend. So thanks so much and congrats, and enjoy the next couple of days.
I will do, Joe. Thanks a million.
Cheers. Nickie Quaid there.
The thing is that immediately in France, some people have been saying, we should put back fencing. I mean, when I hear that, I just lose the will to live, honestly. I mean, have they learned nothing? We should put, already away fans, and these were home fans, by the way, but away fans are treated like animals in some French stadiums. The treatment is absolutely disgraceful. I feel very strongly about that.
Like how so?
Compared to what is happening in England, for example, or in Scotland, or in Germany.
Yeah.
It's the way they're treated. They're really treated like potential criminals. This doesn't encourage them to behave well.
Okay.
First thing. Second thing, I would say that if you start talking about that, this immediately repressive discourse, when in fact, it is obvious we know who these people are. In fact, one of the Nice supporters, the one who actually hit Payet, has been arrested and jailed. Right. I mean, he was going to be interrogated. We know who these people are. Just ban them. Do what has been done in the Championship and in England for a very long time, where nothing of the kind is happening any longer. French football has got to grow up in this particular instance. And also, unfortunately, French football... The people who are in charge in French football have got to grow up themselves and to take some responsibility and not constantly to throw the blame on others. I'm sorry if I sound very angry, because I feel, I don't know, desperately disappointed in what happened and the reaction to it, especially after the season started so well. French football is much better than what you saw on Sunday night, believe me.
I learned a lot from Louisville, and the thing about college basketball is that, different from the NBA is a players' league, and college is a coaches' league. You know what I'm saying? So when you're, but you still have to fit into a system as a pro, but you still get to play. You're a player. In college, if you don't fit into the coach's system, it's hard, because he's a guy that doesn't fit. And Louisville, it's a type of, from my position, it's a type of guy that if you're a big guy, it's boom, bang, 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 hook shot. But that wasn't me. That wasn't how I played. I love to face up. I love to run. I was an athlete. I'm supposed to be able to just be an athlete. Go dunk on some people. Use my speed, use my pace. But I couldn't do that, and so it just never worked. I guess. And listen, I love that coaching staff that they had there. We were really, really tight. We were really, really close. But then, as a sophomore now, when your sophomore year is over, especially with all those injuries, you have to make a decision. Like, okay, the clock is ticking now. What do you want to do with your life? You want to be a professional basketball player. You want to play in the NBA. You have to showcase what you can do. So then you got to leave, because you got to find, a university that fits your style of basketball. And people who are young and just talking, if any young kid from Ireland is just hearing this, and you're about to come to the United States, and you're going to get really, really good, because I know you guys are, because you guys are going to be great. You have to be smart now, because it's like, don't just go for, that's the biggest school, that's the biggest name, boom, I'm going. You have to, watch film, be smart, watch film, and envision yourself in that system. Because if I could do it all over again, I would have watched a whole lot more film, a whole lot more people in my position. Like, okay, I don't play like this guy, but this is how they use him. It's probably not going to work. You know what I'm saying? But now at Grand Canyon, lo and behold, I had tons of conversations with the coach, and tons of conversations with all the other coaches that were recruiting me when I left Louisville. And it wasn't about, how nice my college is, and how nice your room is, how big your bed is. It was your coach. Like, talk to me about basketball. Let's watch film. How do you envision me in the system? It was more about business. It was more about basketball. So I did it the right way because I grew up. You know what I'm saying? And Grand Canyon is perfect for my style of play.
You graduated from Lawrence Woodmere Academy High School, and I guess where your mum, worried back in Dublin, can have a sense of, oh, okay, we weren't all crazy here, is that I think when you graduate from high school, you're ranked 55th in the country. Every high school kid in the country, right across America, all these people, you come in at number 55. So that's serious. That means you're doing the right thing. Did that surprise you, or do you know from a long way out that you're 55? When do you get word that actually the verdict is in? They have you as the 55th best kid playing basketball right across this huge country right now.
Yeah. You're talking about when I graduated, right?
Yeah.
Well, to me at that point, I was actually kind of upset that they put me that low. You know what I mean? Like it's still like, I mean, still honestly, when you said that, still rubs me the absolute wrong way. And
I was like, wow, this is amazing. 55 in this huge country. Okay, sorry, I'm with you.
Yeah, you couldn't tell me there were 54 players that are better than me in the United States of America. Absolutely not. You know, there was a point that I was 14 in the country, and the thing about America and high school basketball is that when you're a senior, right, and you don't make the McDonald's All-American game, which is basically the top 24 kids in the country, you make the McDonald's game, your ranking fluctuates. Like before that game was selected, I was like maybe 29, 30. And when I didn't make that game, it was like they hadn't even seen me play after that. They just dropped me to 55. And I cried, man. I cried a lot because it's like just the time that you put in. Like you got the people watching and hearing this, you guys don't understand like the grind like that I put in. You know what I'm saying? Like I was, as a 15, 16-year-old, I was working out 3 times a day, like morning, afternoon, night. Like it was like I was obsessed. So when you put in that much time to your craft and somebody puts you at 55 in the country, that ain't like, you know, that's not. You know what I'm saying? So,
interesting.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, but it's to answer your question though, like for me to be like, wow, that was great. That was earlier. That was like maybe my 4th year. Like I was in 4th year. I was like, wow, like I'm top 20 in the country. This is crazy. You know what I'm saying? But then after a while, that craziness, that wow, it wears off. Now it's like, okay, it's business. Now I want to be number one. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. You adjust. Okay. Well, that is an interesting answer. So I'll adjust my point of emphasis. 55 in the country. What a disgrace. I mean, what a load of crap that was.
Thank you. There we go. There we go.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.